firm, but there are some blockages of trucks trying to come out of Highway Junction, and a lot of truck drivers just standing around that Highway Junction area. So we'll monitor it. It could well become a top story as we get through this morning. So the unrest seems to be at this stage centred around Harry Smith and the Free State and that Highway Junction services. No change as we get into a new week. The N2 still closed between Prospector and the Monsamtoti just south of Durban. The delays will start to build up from now. And if you're coming out of Cape Town's Mitchell's Plain area, it's always very busy first thing in the morning. And this morning, no exception. The M7, a heavy queue already leading Mitchell's Plain up towards the R300. The alternative AZ Berman through multiple roadworks for bus construction. Also very busy heading towards the R300. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
A very good morning to you. In your SFM sports headlines, it's rugby. The Springboks, they're powered past Scotland with a 32-15 victory. And we also had victory with the Proteas in the second T20 against India. Details around 6:30.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
8 minutes after 6 on this Monday, the 11th of November, 2024. Good morning, South Africa. This is the Morning Brief on SAFM. It's all the local and international news, current affairs, insights and opinions you need to lead the conversation today. I'm Thulasizwe Simelane and I'm here to deliver your Morning Brief. What a weekend it was. A friend of mine once suggested that this country needs a pause button where we can just press pause. Nothing can go wrong and nothing can go right if we're just paused and nothing is happening when all taking it easy and resting. It used to be that weekends were slower news days, right? And that's why newsrooms could afford to sort of, have what you would call skeleton staff and just have, people on standby and not really be that busy and hectic over the weekend. But that does seem to have changed over the last few years. There's never a dull day, certainly not in our politics, but also generally in the news. It's always busy and abuzz with activity. And the past weekend was no exception. Floyd Shivambu, appointed as the MK Party Secretary General in a statement issued by the president of that party, former President Jacob Zuma, saying that he's appointing Floyd Shivambu in terms of the constitution of the MKP to be the Secretary General. So he moves from National Organizer to Secretary General of the Umkhonto weSizwe Party, which is a role that was vacated by Sifiso Masego, who according to the MKP president, and the statement there, wishes to resume his duties as an official in the Gauteng Department of Health. So interesting developments there in terms of the MK party aligning itself and sort of putting together a team of leadership that it believes will take it forward. So that's certainly one to watch and reflect on if you so wish, and I'll be willing to hear from you on that. At the same time, Kabelo Kwamanda's fall from grace continues. You'll remember Kabelo Kwamanda was our mayor here in Johannesburg for quite some time. From being mayor of Johannesburg to being the member of the mayoral committee who was responsible for community development in the city of Joburg, and now has been fired as MMC by Mayor Dada Morero. He had been on special leave, you'll remember, since he was arrested last month on allegations of fraud. The allegations relate to a funeral policy scam that he allegedly ran in Soweto between the years of 2011 and 2012. So Kabelo Kwamanda is out as an MMC, and I hear in the news now that his party Al Jama are insisting that he will be retained as an ordinary councillor in the city of Joburg. So that all happened over the weekend. And then as we were taking a breath from that, finally, the Minister of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, Velenkosini Hlabisa, stepping up to the plate with extensive regulations for the township economy. They don't mention the word spaza shops at all as you read through those draft. It's called a draft bylaw. So it's regulations that he has crafted as draft bylaws that any municipality in the country can just adopt as a bylaw in that municipality. It's meant to address this issue, the issues that you and I have been talking about for the past while, that have to do with the hygiene and the handling of food, contamination of food with pesticides and the likes, and banned chemicals and the likes. The Minister Hlabisa making these regulations. They regulate everything, really, from saying that a person is not allowed to spend the night and sleep in the same premises where they run a business that sells goods to the public, to issues of registration and granting of permits for businesses in the township economy, as well as spelling out, actually, I think one of the clauses spells out that you are not allowed to make for conditions that would allow for contamination with pesticides and other chemicals of food that you sell on your premises. So quite extensive. We've already seen the Gauteng government already calling on its municipalities to ensure that they implement Hlabisa's regulations, which are drafted, as I say, as a standard draft bylaw that can simply be adopted by council. Minister Hlabisa is due to speak to me at about 20 to 7 this morning and will tell us a bit more about those regulations. Lastly, let me flag this story. There's a report out by the United Nations Education, Scientific and Cultural Organization, UNESCO, which states that most items included in national assessments for mathematics in this country between grades 3 and grade 6 are not challenging enough. So it's a concern. It basically says that our children are not being tested for mathematics at the right level. It raises questions of what is the benchmark? Why are we testing them at a level that the UNESCO believes is not on par and is not at the level that it should be for those grades? Does it have to do with the level at which we are teaching them? You certainly can't test children and assess them at a level higher than where you've been teaching them. It just wouldn't make any sense. So we'll put that report, which is entitled Spotlight on Basic Education Completion and Foundational Learning, and we'll have a conversation about that at about 7:10 here on the show. And of course, we have all of your regulars locked and loaded and lined up for this Monday morning, and Musa with your news updates every half hour, Rob Byrne with your traffic updates every 15 minutes or so. Zaikan is watching your sport throughout the morning, and what an epic weekend it was on the sporting front as well. Dauleng Lechela has your economics, business and market news covered. Sipho Mantula with your Africa update just before 8 a.m. And through it all, I'll be taking your calls, and the number to dial 086 000 2032. I'll also take your WhatsApp voice notes on 061 410 4107. This is SAFM. We are leading the conversations that move us. The first hour of the Monday edition of the Morning Brief starts now.
The Daily News Diary on SAFM.
Let's go straight to Ann Musa. Ann, good morning to you.
Good morning, Tulas.
So I believe that among your top stories will be this implementation of these extensive and wide-ranging regulations promulgated by Minister Hlabisa.
Yes, the Gauteng by the... Okay, please just repeat that again.
So Minister Hlabisa has this wide-ranging bylaws. But it's a bylaw, it's regulations, but he's crafted it as a bylaw that any municipality can adopt, and Gauteng has already responded saying that they will be adopting and implementing.
I actually don't have that one in my diary, but I will be looking at it.
Sure.
What I do have is the Gauteng Premier, Panyaza Lesufi, announcing the enforcement of bylaws amid food poisoning outbreaks, and the Gauteng government met with municipalities on the implementation of bylaws governing spaza shops in the province, and details that emerged on the government adopting a multidisciplinary approach, and that includes public education as well as health and law enforcement. And then with regards to that, in Bloemfontein today, 29 people arrested for public violence, and that was following the looting of some spaza shops in Mangaung, are expected to appear in court, and residents, they went on the rampage after learners found fell ill after eating sweets said to have been bought from a spaza shop. In other news, we do have reaction following the withdrawal of the SABC bill by the Communications Minister, Solly Malatsi, and the aim of the bill is to relook the financing model of the public broadcaster, as its unfunded public mandate has become near impossible to carry out. And the newly appointed MK Party Secretary General Floyd Shivambu clarifying his U-turn current stance on Jacob Zuma, that was during his tenure as the EFF Deputy President, now citing a new chapter for the MK Party. We're also looking at operations that are gradually returning to normal at the Libombo port of entry with Mozambique following protests there, and the opposition has called for more mass protests around the country, so we will be looking at that. And the Climate Change Conference, COP29, aiming to address the escalating climate challenges, gets underway today, and we know that South Africa not safe from the effects of climate change, and the South African delegation led by Forestry, Fisheries and the Environment Minister, Dr. Dion George, joining close to 200 countries at the gathering, and a key focus of the COP29 will be on finance. And just lastly, the All Truck Drivers Forum of South Africa threatening a national shutdown over the unresolved issues affecting truck drivers in the country. And in the past, we have seen similar strikes where trucks blocking major routes and some of them being set alight. So just some of the stories that we will be focusing on.
A packed diary as always. Thank you for that. And I don't care for this weather, by the way.
Oh,
out here in
Thulas, I do. You know, if you suffer from sinus, I promise you the worst.
Oh, really? So it provides some reprieve, no?
Yeah.
All right, Anne. We'll talk a bit later. That's Anne Musa there. She'll be updating you on your news every half hour here on The Morning Brief.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
So speaking of the weather, as I said, it's overcast in Joburg and quite cloudy. I don't care for it. I can tell you that for free. But the rest of the country looks like this. There's a yellow level 4 warning. It says severe thunderstorms resulting in flooding of roads, settlements and low-lying areas, leading to closure of some bridges and roads due to heavy downpours, in damage to property and infrastructure due to strong winds and hail, and disruption of municipal services due to excessive lightning are expected over the central parts of both the Northwest and the Free State. The second warning, yellow level 2 warning, it says disruptive rain resulting in localized flooding of susceptible roads and bridges, settlements and low-lying areas due to heavy downpours are expected over the extreme northern parts of Gauteng, northern and eastern parts of Mpumalanga, as well as the southern, western and central parts of Limpopo. The rest of your weather looks like this. Pretoria, cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers with a minimum of 16 and a maximum of 25. Johannesburg is cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers, 14 to 24. Mbombela will be cloudy with widespread showers and thunder showers, a minimum of 17 and a maximum of 18. Polokwane will be cloudy with widespread showers and thunder showers with a minimum of 17 and a maximum of 26. Mahikeng will be partly cloudy with scattered afternoon showers and thunder showers, 17 to 26. Bloemfontein will see morning fog patches, otherwise partly cloudy with scattered afternoon showers and thunder showers with a minimum of 13 and a maximum of 27. Kimberley will see morning fog patches, otherwise partly cloudy with isolated afternoon showers and thunder showers, 14 to 28. Cape Town will be fine. The wind will be moderate to fresh southerly to southeasterly, reaching strong during the afternoon. It will become light and variable in the evening with a minimum of 16 and a maximum of 25. George will be cloudy with isolated showers during the late morning, becoming partly cloudy from the afternoon. The wind in George will be moderate to fresh easterly, reaching strong during the afternoon with a minimum of 13 and a maximum of 21. Gqeberha will be cloudy at times with isolated morning showers. The wind will be light southeasterly, becoming moderate to fresh easterly in the afternoon with a minimum of 11 and a maximum of 21. East London will be cloudy with scattered showers and rain. The wind will be light southwesterly, becoming turning easterly in the afternoon, 14 to 20. Durban will be cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers. The wind will be moderate southerly to southeasterly, 18 to 20. Richards Bay will be cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers. The wind will be moderate southerly to southeasterly with a minimum of 20 and a maximum of 22. And finally, Pietermaritzburg will be cloudy with scattered showers and thunder showers with a minimum of 16 and a maximum of 18.
Only the team that plays the best cricket on the day will enjoy the last laugh. South Africa and India are both hungry to wrap the T20 International Series on the highest possible note. What a summer without cricket! Do not miss out on the fourth and final T20 International battle between South Africa and India on Friday 15 November at 4:30 p.m. live on SABC3 and 4 p.m. on Radio 2000 with reports on various SABC radio stations. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Worldview Update, bringing you closer to international or global news.
22 minutes after 6, let's turn to the story now. Russia has suffered its worst ever month for casualties since the start of the war in Ukraine. This is according to the UK Chief of Defence Staff, Admiral Sir Tony Radakin, who told the BBC that Russia's forces suffered an average of about 1,500 dead and injured every single day in October, bringing its losses to 700,000 since the war began in February 2022. Russia does not disclose the number of its war casualties, so the public depends on Western defense officials to give an estimated death toll. For more on this, I'm joined now on the line by Abel Esterhuizen, who is a professor of strategy in the Faculty of Military Science at Stellenbosch University. Good morning to you, Prof, and thank you for your time. Let's start exactly there. Russia does not disclose these figures publicly. Do we have a way of verifying and knowing, independent of Western sources, Western governments, what the true picture is of casualties in the war in Ukraine?
No, we do not have. So how do they do this? Well, they do it through and by means of two calculations. The one, of course, is a calculation of the battlefield deaths by means of battle assessment. So that's the one way that they do it. The other way, of course, is to monitor the mobilization and the feeding of people into a particular battle area. That's the other way of calculating it. And it's difficult to hide something like battlefield deaths. Because you in one way or another have to deal with the consequences and the realities of battlefield deaths. So you have a fair and good estimate of precisely what it is.
So if I understand, one of the methods that you just suggested, mobilizing and directing of personnel to a particular front, does that suggest that you've lost a lot of people on that front and therefore you're needing to replenish those people?
That's precisely that. And I mean, at the moment, for example, we know that Russia has mobilized about 50,000 personnel for an upcoming offensive in the territories that was, or the territory rather, that was occupied by the Ukrainians in the beginning of the year. So they're going to start with an offensive in that area, and they have given an invitation. They want to do it and try and reoccupy that area before the inauguration of the US president. So it's not too a difficult thing to do the estimation of the number of people dying and the number of people mobilized. It's not something that militaries can really hide. And we know, for example, now that part of that mobilization includes about 10,000 North Koreans, and that the Russians are now plugging into that, that I almost want to say market, but in that source of people, because Russia is increasingly finding it difficult to mobilize the number of people they need for this war. They have been struggling since the beginning, and it's not that they don't have the people. They indeed have the people, but mobilization is a political thing, and to mobilize people has political implications, and we have seen that the Putin government is reluctant to go to the point of full mobilization for a variety of reasons. We also have, for example, a good estimate of who's fighting and who's dying in Russia. And so we have a good idea from what areas in Russia the people are coming from that is doing most of the fighting and most of the dying. And the interesting thing is that they're not coming from the so-called European or white Russia, that is Moscow and the St. Petersburg area. It's interesting that they steer away from mobilizing too much from that particular area. So there's also a political reality underpinning the mobilization of personnel.
And that political reality, is that part of the motivation for Western nations such as the UK, this Chief of Staff, Admiral Sir Tony Radakin, disclosing these figures, which Russia, and also I suppose the same motivation for Russia to keep them under wraps, the casualties become a political story in the country where, people are sort of shielded from the realities of war, does it not?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we can imagine what an impact of the death of 700,000 people in a particular age bracket has on the demographics of a particular country. And in the case of Russia, we have a very good breakdown of their demographics. They suffered, for example, a huge demographic change in the 1990s, with people having less children in the 1990s. The Russians suffering economically in the 1990s, so they stopped having kids in the 1990s. So we already know in the age bracket between 20 and 30, you have in Russia a bit of a gap in terms of the mobilization or the number of people that you can mobilize. And now you add to that problem quite a large and an extensive amount of battle deaths. So you know that over time you're going to have a huge problem demographically wise in terms of your people in your country, the people that's available for the industry, for example, because that's the other problem that Russia is suffering from.
Prof, I do want to end by just looking at what do we know about the casualty figures on the Ukrainian side of things?
Well, that's an interesting debate we can have, because the Ukraine use less of meat grinding tactics, and so they have much more an emphasis on sending bullets instead of people, and so they have high casualties as well, but it's not as high as the Russian casualties. But, and that's a very important but, we know they have a population size about a third of that of Russia. So all that is needed for them to have sort of the same percentage of casualties is 1 in 3 to die, to have the same impact in their society as that of Russia. So this is an interesting reality, demographic reality, and impact of the war.
All right, thank you for your time this morning. That's Professor Abel Esterhazy, who is a professor of strategy in the Faculty of Military Science at Stellenbosch University. Bringing us to 6:30, let's check in with Ann Musa now with the latest news headlines.
Good morning. Thanks to us. In the headlines, the Gauteng government has decided to ban the sale of Turboforce pesticide, which was found to have caused the recent deaths of 6 Soweto children. The newly appointed MK Party Secretary General Floyd Shivambu has clarified his recent U-turn on former President Jacob Zuma during his tenure as the EFF Deputy President. Shivambu and other party MPs were at the forefront, calling for Zuma's removal as the country's president. president. And Communications Minister Solimalatsi has withdrawn the SABC bill, which has been in the making for more than a decade. I'll have details on these and other stories at 7.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning, quite heading out of Germiston and Alberton on the N12 and N3 route through the Elans interchange. Looks like an obstruction around Heldenace this morning. Traffic may have just been released a little bit. The queue's starting to work back, but it is fairly heavy backlogs. Gold Reef City up to Empire Road on the Mike 1. That is jam-packed. And then if you're coming out of Pretoria this morning, a couple of obstructions on the M1. You've got a crash at the R21 southbound. That's amongst all the barricades for the roadworks. And then a breakdown at Buccleuch interchange. So coming through from Allendale Road. That's already busy. Already busy is the N2 between Prospect and Amanzimtoti. No change. The road's still closed as it has been. The N2 starting to push back into Prospect and into the closure point. Side roads, particularly through Prospect and on the Prospecton Road, are looking pretty heavy. Truck drivers strike sort of beginnings with SAPs on the scene. Services in the Harry Smith area. Must stress the N5 and N3 routes through Harry Smith are open. The truck driver blockade seems to be inside the services area, preventing truckers from getting out of those services, but as they SAPs are there. Cape Town a breakdown. N2 inbound near Bunga Avenue, between Bunga Avenue and Jansvat. So coming through from the airport, the N2 under pressure through to Lunga, and that M7 queuing heavily this morning. Coming out of the Mitchells Plain, the backlog is now back beyond Morgansteer Road as you line up from Westgate right through to Samora Michelle in the R300. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Good morning, Zai.
Good morning.
It's easy to use the word epic to describe a weekend, but this is the one time it was accurate. It was an epic sporting weekend, was it not?
Oh my goodness, it just reminds us about the passion and the talent that South Africans bring to the global stage.
Yeah.
The box, man. They were just so scrumtastic,
Yeah.
I have to say. This Makazole Mapimpi.
Yeah. This against Scotland.
This against Scotland.
Yeah.
And it just tells us something about him, that he is, a man that's just out there doing it for his country and doing it so well at the same time. And what we're talking about is the Springboks Autumn Nation Series. They won 32-15 over Scotland at Murrayfield. So it was a fierce battle from the Scots, as well as a red card for Scott Cummings in the 20th minute. South Africa secured a 99 lead by half-time, thanks to first half-time tries by Makazole Mapimpi and one by Thomas du Toit. And Scotland rallied. They came back within 4 points, but the Boks, their bench power, sealing the game, capped off by Jasper Visser's late try. Let's hear from Springbok coach Rassie Erasmus.
To make 11 changes to a side, we said to the players, and you would just expect them to immediately gel. It won't always happen like that, but that's certainly something we want to try and get into the team, no matter who you play with, that our systems and our communication and so on is up to scratch always. But then again, we always knew we had some good cover on the bench. And the scoreboard maybe doesn't tell the whole story, but certainly not a performance we're very proud of.
Let's go to cricket. An unbeaten 42-run partnership between Tristan Stubbs and Gerald Coetzee saw the Proteas claim a 3-wicket win over India in the second T20 International in Gqeberha yesterday. A career-best 5-wicket haul by Varun Chakravarti almost derailed the Proteas' chase at St. George's Park as he took 5 wickets for 17 runs in his 4 overs. South Africa finished on 128 for 7 with 7 balls remaining after India posted 124 for 6. Soccer action. Mamelodi Sundowns, they marched towards the final of the 2024 Carling Knockout Cup with a hard-fought 2-0 win against Marumo Gallants in Bloemfontein yesterday. Sundowns will meet upstart rookies Magesi FC in the final, which they've made a dramatic run in the match. All happening in the same city at Free State Stadium. Now let's go to the Mamelodi Sundowns ladies losing their opening group stage of the 2024 CAF Women's Champions League finals against FC Massa of Egypt 1-0. All happened in Casablanca, Morocco. Banyana Bastille, winners of the tournament in 2 of its 3 editions in 2021 and 2023, and runners-up in 2022, will aim to bounce back in Group B, and that's when they meet CBE of Ethiopia in their second game on Wednesday, 4 p.m. Elsewhere, Burnley ended a 4-game winless streak as they had a 1-0 win over Swansea City. Ipswich Town secured their first Premier League victory of the season, beating Tottenham Hotspur 2-1 away. And Chelsea fought back from behind to claim a point against Arsenal in that London derby. 1-1 the final score, and Manchester United wrapped up Ruud van Nistelrooy's tenure as interim manager with a 3-0 win over Leicester City at Old Trafford. And finally, tennis news. The American Taylor Fritz won his first match in the group stage of the ATP Finals. He beat Daniel Medvedev 6-4, 6-3 after the Russian lost his cool and risked getting defaulted by his bizarre antics. Medvedev, who was the ATP Finals champion in 2020 and runner-up the following year, lost his composure after a string of double faults in the first set as Fritz beat the Russian for the first time in his career. That's how we wrap up sport on the Morning Brief. Headlines top of the hour. I'm Zai Khan.
The Business Update on SAFM.
And for that, let's say good morning to Ndaoling Lechela. So, Ndaoling, China is in a bit of what they describe as a mild deflation, right? So, you have the story that inflation in that country continues to ease despite the government's efforts to boost spending.
That's right. Morning, Tulas. So consumption remains really downbeat in China. This despite the government and central bank's efforts. In October, consumer prices slowed to 0.3% from 0.4% in September. This is the lowest it's been since June. Core inflation, in the meantime, which excludes volatile food and fuel prices, rose 0.2% in October, accelerating from 0.1% it rose 0.2% in October, accelerating from 0.1% in September. Economists were surprised by their print as they expected the stimulus package unveiled last month would boost the economy and spending moving forward. The package unveiled in September was the largest since the COVID pandemic. The government has moved to unveil even more measures after last week's parliamentary meeting. Lawmakers approved a $1.4 trillion package to ease local government burdens rather than directly injecting money into the world's second biggest economy. Now, investors had hoped for that, and so they are expecting more stimulus to be released. And let's say that stimulus is needed, adding that the recent package will likely do little to boost economic activity, demand, and prices in the near term. I recently spoke to Cartesian Capital's Anthea Gardner about these packages and when enough is actually enough. And she said China will do whatever it takes to make it great again. This evident in the bazooka stimulus packages we've been seeing. Now, the Chinese economy really struggling with a property crisis, and 70% of Chinese household wealth is tied up in the real estate sector, which at its peak made up a quarter of the economy. We're seeing consumers holding on to their money tightly, which is subjecting the economy to deflationary pressures.
Did you call it a bazooka stimulus?
Bazooka, yes, it's so big. 1.4 trillion.
Listen to you. This story now about Taiwan, the TSMC, and the U.S. ordering TSMC to halt advanced chip shipments to China. Does it have anything to do with the new men coming into the White House soon, or did it just happen in the interim, even before he gets to office?
I think the tech war between U.S. and China has been ongoing even under the Democrats. So we're just seeing another move from that front. But I guess also, just coming in time when Trump is about to step in as president. So the U.S. Department of Commerce has instructed Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company to suspend shipments of advanced chips to Chinese customers from today. The restriction applies to more advanced designs used in AI applications, including AI accelerator and graphics processing units known as GPUs. Now, according to Reuters, the Commerce Department sent a letter to TSMC imposing export restrictions on certain chips products destined for China. This move follows TSMC's notification to the department that one of its chips was found in a Huawei AI processor, violating export controls. Now, Huawei, already on a restricted trade list, requires suppliers to get licenses to ship goods or technology. Any license supporting Huawei AI efforts would likely be declined. Now, TSMC has suspended shipments to China-based chip designer Sanco, whose chip matched the one found in Huawei's AI processor. The latest clampdown affects multiple companies, allowing the US to also assess potential chip diversion to Huawei for AI processing.
Yeah, you get a sense that there'll be lots more to come on that story, those tech wars between those superpowers. Lastly, Ndauleng, a recap of the markets here at home in the US and Asia.
So U.S. markets wrapped up election week on a high, with all indexes closing in the green on Friday, digesting a Trump victory and a Fed rates decision. The mood quite different here at home, with local markets in the red, the all-share down 1%, fueled by declines from the resources 10 complex, shedding 2.8% on Friday. Meanwhile, on the currency front, things still a bit volatile, the rand taking a breather from highs of 17.37 last week to 17.61 to the dollar this morning. Then over in Asia, it's red across the board. That's as traders digest the smaller than expected size of China's fresh stimulus measures and the release of weak inflation data over the weekend that spurred new concerns over the recovery of the world's second largest economy.
All right, with that, your week has started. That's Ndauleng Lechela there with the first of her updates. Look out for more from Ndauleng in the second and third hour of the morning brief.
The South African government has implemented economic reforms to address challenges in energy, logistics, and the visa regime. The national rail policy is aimed at modernizing the rail sector, and the reduction of water use license backlogs has attracted 24.4 billion rands in investment. The recently gazetted visa system regime will attract critical skills and investment whilst boosting tourism to ignite the economy and enable job creation. These reforms demonstrate considerable progress in transforming South Africa's economy and addressing the binding constraints on growth. Building and transforming the economy. A message brought to you by Government Communications.
SAFM commemorates Disability Rights Awareness Month under the theme Celebrating 30 Years of Democracy, Creating a Disability-Inclusive Society for a Better Quality of Life and the Protection of the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. SAFM supports and works tirelessly towards equity and equality for those living with disabilities. Empowerment is key. Let us break the barriers and improve the quality of life for those living with disabilities. Our tireless efforts towards a better life for those living with disabilities can only be impactful when we do so together. We do not tolerate any kind of discrimination. Disability Awareness Month 2024, only on SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. Disability Rights Awareness Month on SAFM. Big stories of the day. Hashtag the morning brief.
The Minister of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, COGTA, Velenkosini Hlabisa, has introduced a new standard draft bylaw for township economies. According to his department, this bylaw aims to create an enabling environment for small businesses in townships, support economic inclusion, job creation, and community empowerment. The Minister, Velenkosini Hlabisa, joins me now for that conversation. Minister, good morning. Thank you for your time. Nowhere in those bylaws do you mention the word spaza shop or informal trading of goods such as food, but it is quite clear, is it not, that part of what you were seeking to achieve is to regulate the trade that includes spaza shop, was it?
Good morning, Thulasizwe and the listeners of the radio station. Indeed, the bylaws are not targeting spaza shops, but wants to regulate the township, rural and the informal settlement economy in any way, spaza shops will be at the top of the agenda. As we rightly know, there are so many challenges that emanates from spaza shop, the way in which they are run in our country. As you will also know, this bylaw want to protect the South African people in running the township economy, which was affected.
Minister Hlabisa? Oh, okay. It's one of those. Sorry, Minister, we lost you there. You were saying South Africans being able to run the township economy, which was affected, and we lost you there for a moment.
Yeah, I'm sorry. The problem with WhatsApp, when someone is calling, interrupts you. I'm not sure whether you hear me now.
Yes, we can. Yes, we can. Please proceed,
okay.
Minister.
No, yes. As I was saying, as we rightly know, the township economy was affected right from the period of violence. Some of businesses could not reopen, and thereafter, even the small shops, the tuck shops, were eventually taken over by the foreign national, which is not bad in a way of running a business, but a number of things happening in the spaza shop, people sleeping there, selling illicit goods, selling expired food. This creates a problem and a health hazard to people of South Africa, and the economy was taken out or away from South Africans.
Yeah.
These bylaws wants to regulate and also to control the number of the businesses to be run by foreign nationals, so that we bring back the economy in the hands of the South African people living in our townships.
In fact, Minister, you use the word quota, that the municipalities will have to set quotas of businesses that can be owned by foreign nationals. But let's just quickly highlight some of what you are seeking to regulate. You talk about permitting as well as registration. Just tell me whether this will become a requirement for any business to be run, formal or informal, in the townships, that it will need some kind of permit from a municipality?
Yes, to run any kind of business, you will need a permit from the municipality. To get a permit from the municipality, you must be a registered person and you must be a South African. If you are not a South African, you must be a documented foreign national. If you are not documented, you can't run a business from onwards once these bylaws have been adopted by municipalities.
And this applies to everyone regardless of the size of business you're seeking to run. So, for example, if I want to run a stall selling amagwinya, will I need to be permitted?
Definitely, because if you will not regulate such, people will run away from spaza shop or small businesses to sell amagwinya, and you will never know who is selling what. And when food poisoning is happening, you won't be able to trace who was responsible. Every business is going to be registered.
Speaking of that, then, you're saying the municipality must grant that permit, and then you say unless certain exceptions apply. Among those exceptions, I think you included a situation where the person running the business is not adhering to the right proper health standards. In particular, you mentioned the issue of pesticides in those regulations.
Definitely, everybody will have to comply with the health standards. And the health inspectors, the police, traffic officers will be responsible to conduct unannounced inspection, and if found that a person is transgressing, there will be a first warning, and if repeated transgression, the business will have to be closed down and cannot reopen again in the same area or jurisdiction of the municipality, and a person will be deposited in a register of being a transgressor, that you can't move from one municipality to the other.
Am I correct in reading, and as a final question, Minister, that you're not decreeing that this is now the standard and the law as you've gazetted it as regulations? It is a draft bylaw and still needs action from municipalities by way of adopting it themselves and making it their bylaw?
The first step was COGTA to gazette these bylaws, and they will be cascaded down to municipalities. We will give them timelines, but by the time we go to festive season, all municipalities must have adopted these bylaws in their council, and then they become applicable as law of a municipality and enforced.
All right. Thank you for your time and your insights this morning. That is the Minister of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, Velenkosi Hlabisa there.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
It's looking a little bit better on the N1 between Pretoria and Joburg. A crash southbound at the R21 in the roadworks. That's been cleared, and the earlier crash going down to Beclu is being cleared. But it is busy this morning, particularly that section between Brockfontein and New Road. And then you've got that sort of earlier backlog through Allendale to Beclu, which should hopefully clear. The Mike 1 coming in from Gold Reef City up to Empire, very heavy. It's a really busy run through Crown and Brownfontein. The R24 away from the airport down to Barber Road looking slow, and there's some queuing pressure at Spraitview on the N3 North up towards Heidelberg Road. Durban, obviously the N2 South closure, Prospect into Amanzimtoti is still there. So there's a lot of congestion building into Prospect and into Joiner Road on the side roads, but the N2 North is quite slow this morning. Backlogs coming up 20 Hill all the way through to the Prospecton Road junction. That's on your way to Durban, which is interesting. Higginson Highway down to Havenside, very busy, and roadworks on Durban's Victoria Embankment, probably for a couple more weeks. If you turn off the M4, peak morning times onto the Esplanade, expect to sit in some traffic. Cape Town's Mitchell's Plain, heavier than normal. Big queues this morning on the M7, back beyond Westgate, all the way through to the R300. The side road there, the alternative, Veltfreden Road, heading up towards Philippi, really jam-packed. And there's some heavy traffic on the highways. The M2 backing up from the airport, all the way through to Mowbray Main. The N1's already standing from Durban Road at Belleville, right through to the Cooper Get a Change. And if you're coming out of Bosmansdam Road, Edgemead, that's getting really busy over the N7 bridge and down towards Summer Greens and the Montague Drive exit. A little bit of traffic on the N1 inbound this morning as well. Okavango Road down through to the R300 on your way in towards Brackenfell and Belleville. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
You are listening to the Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
7 minutes to 7. Let's turn to this now. The South African National Civic Organization, Sanco, in KwaZulu-Natal, has announced that it will cut ties with the African National Congress in the province. This decision was communicated in a letter from Sanco KZN Secretary Sizwe Cele to the ANC Provincial Secretary Bheki Mtolo, which was sent yesterday. In the letter, Cele voiced frustration over the ANC's apparent lack of response to efforts to meet and strengthen the political relationship with Sanco. Sizwe Cele, the Sanco KZN Provincial Secretary, joins me now to take that conversation forward. Good morning to you, Mr. Cele. I've got to thank you for your time. What brought you to this point? What was the final straw for you in this relationship with the ANC?
Good morning, Makujwa, and good morning to your SAFM listeners. Thank you for this opportunity. Basically, this has been an ongoing matter. You'll recall that on the 13th of June 2024, this year, the three alliance partners, SACP, COSATU, and Sanco, held a media briefing where they publicly expressed the dissatisfaction, the manner in which the ANC KZN has been treating us. So each time when Sanco, the PEC, is holding its PEC meeting, they will always have an item called alliance progress. So we always have to report in terms of whether we are making progress in terms of our relationship with the alliance. So eventually, in the PEC meeting, which took place on the 1st of November this year, the PEC of Sanco KZN, on the basis that we are not getting joy from the relationship with the ANC, therefore decided to say, no, let's cut ties with the ANC in terms of our relationship. Otherwise, the relationship with the SACP and COSATU is still functional, and we are having programs together as the alliance in that regard. It's only with the ANC where we have issues, not only us, all the other alliance partners. So,
Not getting joy with the relationship is perhaps an understatement, Mr. Cele. From your letter, you reveal that you've not been able to hold an alliance meeting. Is this just with Sanco or no alliance meeting with any of the alliance components in KwaZulu-Natal all of this year?
Yes, with all the other alliance partners. You see, what will happen is, if I may give you a full background, when we go for general elections or just elections, the alliance members need to sit and plan for the elections. We never had that as the alliance in KwaZulu-Natal. Even after the elections, we need to have post-mortem review in terms of how did we perform, the lessons learned, etc. We never had that. And when it comes to the formation of government, we also need to sit as the alliance and plan to say, how do we deal now, given the result that we've got in terms of the formation of a government. We never had that. The ANC had meetings with opposition parties such as DA, IFP, and others without involving the alliance partners who were actively involved in the campaign for the ANC to win the elections. Unfortunately, the ANC did not perform well. But we were supposed to be part of the discussions in the formation of the GPU. Even after that, we're supposed to sit in the deployment to discuss who are we deploying to government, given the negative results that we achieved. So we've never had such engagement. Even after that, in terms of running of government, and the ANC needs to sit now and then with alliance partners. None of that is
quick response from you. Does this mean you are severing ties with the ANC, both in KwaZulu-Natal but also the national ANC? Yes or no?
No. The jurisdiction is within KZN.
So you'd still relate with the ANC at a national level, would you?
Come again, please.
I'm saying, would you still relate with the ANC at a national level? So if the ANC Secretary General Fikile Mbalula said he wants to meet you, would you meet with him, for example? Do you still consider yourself to be in alliance with the ANC at national level?
But Mbalula will meet with his counterpart within Sanco, which is our General Secretary.
All right. I hear you. Yes. Thank you for that. That's Sizwe Cele, who is the Sanco KwaZulu-Natal Provincial Secretary there, talking about the relationship that has broken down between themselves and the ANC.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
Let's take a quick call from Active Citizen in Polokwane. Good morning to you, Active Citizen. You want to talk to me about spaza shops? Baba.
Spaza shops are but one of the issues that we are having with foreign nationals. It's not the only issue that we are having with foreign nationals. And if this ANC government is also on the payroll of these foreign nationals, like Julius Malema, they must just say it. Look, we generally, as South Africans, we have got the problem with foreign nationals taking over the economy of South Africa. Look, I'm in Polokwane. Every shop that closes down in Polokwane is being opened up by foreign nationals, and they're using these shops to sell spares and everything else to clean money for drugs. Because these people that are actually in the drug business, but they're opening minor shops to clean the money, so that when they're asked how are you generating this money, they point to the shops. But we are actually aware of the fact that they're actually drug dealers. So if the ANC government and their councillors and the local government are in on the payroll of the foreign nationals, they must say there are so many parties that can help us to clean foreign nationals out of the system of South Africa, because we don't want to share this economy with foreign nationals. That is the opinion of South Africans.
Active Citizen, just quickly, you're not saying all foreign nationals are involved in the drug trade and therefore seeking to use...
More than 90% of foreign nationals, at least here in Polokwane, that are in drug business.
Okay.
And it's very sad that every shop that closes down here in Polokwane is being opened by foreign nationals. And if you can sit there the whole day and observe what actually is happening there, there's no business activity that is taking place. You understand? So the people that are coming there are very suspicious characters. Very suspicious characters. You can see or no. These people are in very serious business of drug trafficking and all sorts of things.
Okay,
and
let's leave it there.
Behind these shops, there are also prostitution.
All right, thank you. That is Active Citizen in Polokwane. They're weighing in on the issue of spaza shops and bringing us to 7 a.m. Let's check in now with the latest news with Ann Musa. Essential cover from Outsurance pays out claims in cash, allowing you to choose your own panel beater. SMS car to 43187 now.
In our top stories, Gauteng bans unauthorized sale of pesticide Tebufos and Communications Minister withdraws SABC bill. Good morning. The Gauteng government has decided to ban the sale of Tebufos, a pesticide which was found to have caused the recent deaths of 6 Soweto children. Gauteng Premier Panyaza Lesufi says only licensed businesses will be able to sell the pesticide, also known as Halipirimi. Lesufi was speaking in Johannesburg yesterday following a meeting with MECs, mayors and MMCs on implementing bylaws and regulations for spaza shop operations in the province. The meeting comes amidst the spike in foodborne illnesses which have since claimed the lives of 23 children in the province, with 441 cases reported. Lesufi says traders must abide by prescribed regulations.
We have agreed, all of us, that that substance is banned in our province and that it must not be found in shops, it must not be found in informal traders, and that the law enforcement agencies will assist us to eliminate it where possible. But those that are authorized, the Department of Agriculture will be the way-to institution that will give the licensing and the permission to utilize that.
The newly appointed MK Party Secretary General Floyd Shivambu has clarified his recent U-turn on former President Jacob Zuma. During his tenure as the EFF Deputy President, Shivambu and other party MPs were at the forefront, calling for Zuma's removal as the country's president during former public protector Thuli Madonsela's investigation into the multi-million rand upgrade at his Nkandla homestead in KwaZulu-Natal. Speaking to SABC News, Shivambu, who was the national organizer and now the Secretary General of MK, says they were misled about Zuma.
During President Zuma's presidency, there was a lot of falsehoods that were spread by the media, that there's a house which is built in Dubai, like a huge mention of 400 million, all sorts of falsehoods, by the way. And we fell into that trap and joined into that nonsense of saying there's everything wrong with President Zuma. And then we called for the commission of inquiry into so-called state capture. But when the revelations came on the state capture, we realized that actually there is nothing which has been alleged President Zuma had done wrong. Like this, objectively nothing that represents any state capture from his side. But we fell into the trap because the politics which I am purposefully departing from.
Communications Minister Solly Malatsi has withdrawn the SABC bill, which has been in the making for more than a decade. The aim of the SABC bill is to relook the financing model of the public broadcaster, as its unfunded public mandate is unsustainable. Malatsi says the urgent priority is to develop a funding model which will allow the public broadcaster to be financially sustainable. He says he has already informed the National Assembly Speaker Toko Didiza on his decision.
After extensive public consultations, it's clear the bill falls short, delaying a funding solution by 3 years and leaving the SABC financially vulnerable. It also risks the SABC's independence by giving the minister powers over board appointments when media freedom is sacrosanct. We need a strong financial foundation so that the SABC can inform, educate and entertain South Africans without political or financial pressures. This decision safeguards the future of an institution that reaches every corner of our nation, ensuring a resilient, independent SABC, which is a pillar of our democracy and a voice for all South Africans.
The trial of alleged underworld gang bosses Jerome Donkey Boyson, Andre Nodia and 13 others expected to resume in the High Court in Cape Town today following a postponement last week due to the murder of co-accused Mark Liffman and George last Sunday. Liffman was gunned down in a hail of bullets outside the Garden Route Mall. The accused are on trial on a number of charges, including the murder of a man known as the steroid king, Brian Weinstein. The death certificate of Liffman is expected to be handed over to the court. And finally, Iran is to introduce power cuts in many parts of the country starting today due to a shortage of fuel at power stations. Although initial plans aimed to limit blackouts to certain provinces, the inclusion of Tehran province highlights the growing urgency of the situation. The new plan does not affect the capital itself but will result in power outages in surrounding cities and towns. The cuts are also being made to curb growing levels of pollution in the country. The BBC's Mike Thompson has the details.
Means electricity to many Iranian homes is to be cut for 2 hours a day between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. The state-run electricity company says the biggest problem is a limited supply of gas now that the government has banned the use of oil in power stations. This is intended to curb growing pollution levels. All this won't be entirely new to many Iranians. In July, the working hours of government staff was halved in a bid to save energy. Ironically, sanctions hit Iran is thought to have the third highest reserves of crude oil in the world.
Recapping the top story, the Gauteng government has decided to ban the sale of Tobufas, a pesticide which was found to have caused the recent deaths of 6 Soweto children. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
And that's the news for this hour. Theft, accident and 1 million rand liability cover, all covered by Outsurance Essential. Get a quote today, SMS CAR to 43187. Outsurance Essential is low-cost insurance for older cars. Annelie, a 39-year-old woman, pays only 291 rand a month for her 2005 Hyundai Getz 1.5. With Outsurance Essential, accident claims are paid in cash, so you can choose the panel beater you want to use. Top this up with the motor warranty, which covers you for mechanical or electrical breakdowns. Get saving with Outsurance Essential for unfinanced cars older than 5 years and valued at less than 130,000 rand. SMS CAR to 43187. That's CAR to 43187 today. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Some delays if you're leaving the airport in Joburg, heading to Pretoria, the roadworks there, with noticeable backlogs between Botswana Road and the NGen services. And the R24 is under pressure, coming off the R21 at the airport, queuing quite heavily down towards the Barbara Road exit. Plenty of traffic on the Mike 1 from Ormonde all the way through to about Oxford Road in Parktown before you're out of that. And the N1's fairly busy this morning. You'll sit from Brockfontein all the way down almost to Allendale Road before you're out of that. Looks like something's probably happened again just before Allendale Road. Crash heading through KZN on the N3 between Balgowan and Lions River. Watch for slowing traffic there. M7 into Point out up to St John's Avenue Bridge is heavy. The M2 South closure of Prospect and to Toti still with us as we get into a new week. There's all sorts of congestion there, but the story this morning is actually the M2 North. Very heavy coming from Amansam Toti all the way through that area, right up to Prospect, and busier than normal, busier than you might be expecting. And Cape Town, lots of traffic on the N2 inbound, passing Khayelitsha down towards the R300. And then you've got queues from the airport through to Mowbray Main Road and the N1 highway to Cape Town. It's a heavy Monday as well, with traffic sitting from Durban Road out at Belleville all the way through to the Kuberg interchange. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Good morning to you. In your SFM sports headlines, it's cricket. The Proteas have levelled the T20 series in dramatic style against India, and rugby, the Springboks. They had a 32-15 win over Scotland at Murrayfield. Details around 7:30.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
9 minutes after 7. It's the second hour of the morning brief on this Monday. Good morning, South Africa. Thank you for staying with us. So you'll remember, among the stories that we will cover in this hour, let me start there. You remember the recent reports that we keep highlighting. I think it's called Pearls. It's about the reading for understanding trends at a global level and includes South Africa, of course. This is the survey that found that about 81% of the country's grade 4 learners learners that were tested in 2021, for example, could not read for comprehension. Well, if you thought that was one concern, the other concern now that is coming to the fore is another report, yet another report, this time by the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, UNESCO, which states that most items that are included in national assessments for mathematics in grade 3 and grade 6 are not challenging enough. So simply put, our children are not being tested at the right levels for mathematics, according to this report at least. We'll delve into that within this hour to find out whether this is an issue that should be of grave concern for us, but at the same time what the reasons could be why they are not being tested at the right levels. That conversation coming up in the next few minutes. Then you heard in the news there that Gauteng has taken a decision that the agrochemical Tebufos will be banned and will no longer be used. People are not allowed to use it in Gauteng. Well, this comes after there's been this call by a coalition of civil society organizations and trade unions that heads must roll for the regulatory failure that has caused the deaths of 6 Soweto children who ingested that agrochemical, which is Tebufos. And I think the name is Halipirimi, the informal name that is used. It's called a street pesticide, and there have been these calls that this must be banned. One of the people championing the ban of Tebufos, Leslie London, will have a conversation with me within this hour, in fact within this half hour, to bring it all in focus for you. We have all of your regulars locked and loaded, the team ready to give you all of your updates, but also we'll be taking your calls, and the number to dial is 086 000 2032. I'll also take your WhatsApp voice notes. Send them to the number 061 410 4107. This is SAFM. We are leading the conversations that move us. The second hour of the Monday edition of the Morning Brief starts now.
Thulasizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
So let's start here then. A report by the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, UNESCO, states that most items included in national assessments for mathematics in grades 3 and 6 are not challenging enough. The report, titled Spotlight on Basic Education Completion and Foundational Learning, was released by the Department of Basic Education last month. Let's bring into the conversation Dr. Ritupano Goswami, who is a professor and director at Astrophysics Research Center School of Mathematics, Statistics and Computer Science. This is at the University of KwaZulu-Natal. Doc, good morning, and thank you for your time. So this report, just break it down for me. Does it suggest that our pupils at grade 3 and grade 6 are not being taught at the right level, or they are not being tested at the right level?
Okay, to start with, this report is specifically focused on the framework of teaching mathematics with understanding, what we know as TMU, the content to be taught, the learning and teaching support materials that has to be supplied to the schools, and as stipulated in the Curriculum and Assessment Policy Statement, which we all know as CAPS, and that's how our school education goes. Now, the report is very comprehensive. The total number of stakeholder interviews and observation, etc., gives a fair amount of good statistical data, and hence the report is quite trustworthy. So now the report brings up several different issues. For example, it brings up the positive issues as well. For example, in 2019, the number of grade 5 students achieved the minimum proficiency level in mathematics was 41%, which is up from 11% in 2003. That's a great leap. And also the report specifically stated that our curriculum is well aligned with the global standards. So these are the good points. There are certain points which they raised some red flags was the content alignment. So there is some noticeable degree of misalignment between the intended national curriculum and the content in the learner textbooks. This is in both grade 3 and grade 6 level, but more in grade 3 level.
Sure.
And as we are coming out of the COVID recovery plan, I think this misalignment should be taken a bit seriously.
So, Prof, just explain then that level of testing. My understanding is that it
now
has
I'm
to
coming
do...
to the pedagogical alignment.
Yes.
This is important. So, in grade 3, the TMU lab or the TMU textbooks emphasize foundational skills that require lower level of cognitive difficulty. So whatever they are learning, the students are learning, what they are tested is at a bit lower level.
Mm-hmm.
What they found out was only 2% of the activities in the workbook require higher level of cognitive thinking, like performing complex procedures and investigative and problem solving. Now the point is, possibly these textbooks were made so that people could do the things and pass on. But the thing is, this is exactly the point raised in the report, and which we all think, unless you put a certain amount of challenge among the student, they won't get really attracted to the subject. If something is taken for granted, they lose that's what we see, because we are teaching mathematics throughout. If everything is easy peasy and taken for granted, then they lose their interest. So there must be a certain amount of challenge.
Sure.
And that should be incorporated in this text.
So what should be the response then of parents, of society, as well as government and other stakeholders in education in response to that particular challenge that you just flagged from the report?
I think they should take it positively and put some bit more challenging questions. For example, in grade 6, it's not that bad. They have certain cognitive thinking level skills required. But I think it should start earlier from grade 3 so that the learners can take the challenge, and that will suitably, what I would say is prepare them for the higher grades.
All right, thank you.
Rather than just doing the usual, without any knowing and using vocabulary and using standard equipment and performing routine procedure,
right.
There should be a little bit more cognitive thinking involved.
All right, thank you for your time.
I think,
Thank you for your time this morning. That's Dr. Ritupano Goswami, who is a professor and director at Astrophysics Research Center, School of Mathematics, Statistics and Computer Science at the University of KwaZulu-Natal.
Outsurance definitely understands the nature of our business. Being properly insured is extremely important to the success of our business.
They come to the party very quickly, resolve things.
Action speak much louder than words. Outsurance have shown us nothing but action.
Switch to Business Outsurance today and you could get a massive 20% discount on your business insurance premium. SMS quote to 43328. That's quote to 43328 to switch and save today. Licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online. The only talk radio morning breakfast show that makes sense. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
18 minutes past 7. Heads must roll for the regulatory failure that caused the deaths of 6 Soweto children who ingested the highly toxic agrichemical Tebufos. This is according to a coalition of civil society organizations and unions. Their sentiments are echoed by Professor Leslie London, a pesticide expert at the University of Cape Town's School of Public Health, who says government ministers need to be held to account for overseeing a system that allowed Tebufos to be used in South Africa under the conditions that it has been over time. Professor London joins me this morning. Good morning to you, Prof. I've got to thank you for your time. So you will have heard in the news this morning the announcement by the Gauteng government that Tebufos, and I believe it is known as Halipirimi, the sun won't rise if you won't rise with you being alive if you consume it. That the Gauteng government has now announced that it will be banned in Gauteng. Too little, too late, or a welcome development?
It's certainly a welcome development, but by law, the Gauteng government will have difficulty banning it because we have such an archaic system. at national level, that it will still be registered for use. It will just come from another province, and that's the problem. We have a law that is more than 75 years old, pre-apartheid, predates 1948. It's still in the books, and the Department of Agriculture is still trying to issue regulations under that law. So I think it won't really be effective.
Am I correct in saying this is the pesticide that is known as haliperime? From the work that you have encountered, is it a street pesticide? Is it being used as what is called a street pesticide?
It is indeed, and it actually replaced another pesticide which was equally toxic called aldicarb or temic, which was also sold in the form of granules. And in fact, that pesticide was so toxic the US and Europe had phased it out around early 2000s, 2010. It caused similar kinds of fatal poisonings in South Africa because it was used for the same purpose, to control rats in homes, pests, and industry basically stopped it before it was banned here. And what happened? We didn't change the system, so TB4 simply replaced it, and now we have the same problem. And unless we identify why it's happening, it's going to carry on happening.
What are the regulatory mistakes that you believe allowed for Tebufos to continue to exist and to be utilized in the country in the way that it has until now?
Well, there are a lot of toxic pesticides, and Tebufos is probably one of the most toxic ones, that continue to be used here, even though they're banned in Europe, they're banned in other countries, but they're exported here. There's a whole international convention, the Rotterdam Convention, which says there has to be a procedure in place for such pesticides to be exported. Yet we don't have that. The Department of Environment basically has been delaying on issuing regulations. We actually ratified that convention decades ago. Similarly, there are other international conventions we've signed, Stockholm, etc., yet we don't actually have action in the country to take strong measures. I mean, decades ago, I spoke to a pesticide registrar, and he basically said to me, no, we can't do anything about these pesticides unless they're already banned somewhere else. But even now, we find that even though they're banned somewhere else, there's no willingness to take action here. And it's because industry are so influential in particularly the Department of Agriculture. I won't say other departments, but the Department of Agriculture really seems unable to take strong action without getting the permission of industry first.
What, in your view, should be the consequence management for these regulatory failures, which, as you and I speak, have proven to be quite fatal? The 6 Soweto children that died, and those deaths have now been linked to this agrochemical Tebufos.
Well, it wasn't my headline to say heads must roll.
Yes.
Accountability doesn't need personal accountability. I think the real response should be that there should be a proper introspection of why the legal system is failing. You can't have a law that's 75 years old. We've just been asked for new comments on a new regulation that's come out under the law. And I'll give you one example. The regulation basically sets out conditions under which chemicals can be restricted or labeled pesticides of concern, but it then creates a whole set of exceptions under which industry can basically continue to use the pesticide. And at the end of the day, the law says that the registrar must approve the pesticide application for registration if those other conditions are met. And they're basically like a tick box. And instead of saying the registrar must not approve the pesticide unless those conditions are met, the law says they must approve. So then the onus is shifted onto the registrar's office to show why it's a bad pesticide. That's completely out of kilter with any modern legislation. That's why it's 75 years old. The law is not fit for practice anymore. The whole law must be thrown out, and the department must lead that process. They've known about this for years. They brought out a policy paper in 2006. It was revised, reissued in 2010. They've done nothing since then. Nothing.
All right. Thank you for your time this morning, Professor Leslie London, who is a pesticide expert at the University of Cape Town's School of Public Health.
Big stories of the day. #The Morning Brief.
At 24 minutes past 7, let's turn our attention to this now. The KwaZulu-Natal Investment Conference is set to kick off this morning. The conference, which will run until tomorrow, aims to promote the province as the preferred investment destination by showcasing its unique selling points. It will feature investment pledges to be made by several companies and investors. For more on that, I'm joined by the Premier of the province, Tamintuli. Good morning to you, Premier, and thank you for your time. What are the key objectives of this year's investment conference, and how do they align with the province's long-term economic goals?
No, thank you very much for having me, and good morning to yourself and to the listeners at home. Well, the provincial government of KwaZulu-Natal saw an opportunity to invite the prospective investors into the province so that we showcase our province, as we have already mentioned, the potential which is there for investment. We intend to see the province advancing the inclusive economic growth and also the job opportunities, new job opportunities for the people of KwaZulu-Natal. We want to actually unpack the potential not only around the first economic hub, but even beyond the economic hub, because one of the things that we want to achieve at the 7th administration is to revitalize the township and the rural economy. So there are different sectors, in fact, which poses an opportunity for investment in the province, which then will be unpacked when we meet, and we will be also giving the state of the province, especially we know what are the issues that worries the potential investors, even those who are already investing in the province. So it's important for us to unpack the status now in terms of the province being friendly to business or being friendly to investment.
Speaking of that, Premier, what are the specific measures that the provincial government is taking to ensure a business-friendly environment for both local and international investors?
Well, there are things which are within our power and those that are beyond, but which were part of the discussion. One, the issue of the red tapes. When we met with business previously, they indicated that there are a lot of red tapes which they see that they need to be attended to so that investment, in fact, will flourish in the province. The issue of crime, wherein they complained about the issue of crime, which recently they were happy to see the progress we're making so far in terms of fighting crime in the province. But the other issues are the issues which are of national, in fact, responsibility, such as the issue of the visas, which were happy as we met with the president and the national cabinet past weekend, where a commitment was made that they are looking at the issue of the visas, and they have identified it as an important factor that needs to be addressed so that investors, including the tourists, are able, in fact, to come into our province and into our country.
Lastly, Premier, what initiatives is the provincial government implementing to unlock KwaZulu-Natal's economic potential?
One of them is the one that we see today, that will be seen today and tomorrow. And we have been speaking to the international community, especially the ambassadors, to try and encourage investment into the province of KwaZulu-Natal. And we will be continuing to do what we have already started to profile KwaZulu-Natal so that it will be seen as a destiny for investment.
All right, thank you for your time there. That's the Premier of KwaZulu-Natal, Tamintuli, speaking ahead of the KwaZulu-Natal Investment Conference, which is set to kick off this morning. The conference, of course, it will run until tomorrow, and the whole objective of the provincial government is to try and address a lot of the issues that have affected the economy of KwaZulu-Natal. Recovery has been difficult since the years of the lockdown and COVID, particularly trying to get the tourism sector back to the levels where it was. But also, you'll remember the disruptions wrought on by the riots and that happened in 2021, as well as the natural disasters that have occurred in the province over a period of time, and the provincial government now bringing in together investors and others to take pledges for investments to boost the economy. At 7:30, let's check in with N. Musa now with the latest news headlines.
Good morning. Thanks to us in the headlines. Chairperson of Parliament's Communications and Digital Technology Committee, Kusela Sangoni, has expressed a grave concern following reports that the SABC bill has been withdrawn by the Communications Minister, Solly Malatsi. The Gauteng government has decided to ban the sale of Tobifos, a pesticide which was found to have caused the recent deaths of 6 Soweto children. And the All Truck Drivers Forum says its planned shutdown will go on as planned today, despite ongoing talks with government officials in an effort to avert the strike. I'll have details on these and other stories at 8.
SAFM. Morning, the M1 through Midrand stays busy now. A crash between New Road and Allendale Road. So heavy queues coming through from the Brockfontein interchange side. If you're leaving the airport, there's queues on the R21 north up towards the Engen services at Tempe. So that's the double lane closure for roadworks. That's heavy. And if you're coming out of the airport towards Joburg's a big backlog leaving the R21 or exiting the airport down as far as Barber Road. The N1 going north slow, getting off at Gordon Road. There is a crash just off the highway, Gordon Road at Hendrik Potgieter, snarling things up there. Durban, we know about the closure and the delays going south through Prospect and towards Amonsom Toti, but interestingly, the N2 north is heavy from Toti through to Prospect, and big traffic through Umhlanga. Both the N2 and M4 routes towards Durban are under pressure, and Cape Town very busy today on the N1, unusually so, coming through from Joostenburg through to Brackenfell. You don't normally sit in that sort of traffic on a Monday morning, and then from Durban Road right through to Kubo, get a change, very busy, and then you've got 2 queues to work through on Marine Drive this morning from Bayside Mall through to Racecourse Road at Milnerton, and then from Milnerton High School through Woodbridge Island down to Boundary Road at the Lagoon Beach area. Another sizable queue to work through there. With your traffic updates, I'm Rob Byrne.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
So as we were saying, Zaid, that it was an epic weekend. One of the other, sports that were on the go, Proteas T20, and you're telling me that they've leveled the series in fine style.
Oh, yes, Thulas. I mean, from cricket comebacks to rugby wins, I think South Africa...
To Chelsea? Okay, it's fine. Proceed. It's okay.
We'll say South Africa owned the weekend in sports. Chelsea, okay, we'll give them a point. Let's go to this electrifying night yesterday in Gqeberha. Proteas, they came back from the edge to clinch a nail-biting 3-wicket victory over India in the second T20 international, chasing 125 runs. South Africa stumbled at 66 for 6 in the 13th over, but middle order hero Tristan Stubbs took charge, delivering an unbeaten 47 of 41 balls, guiding the Proteas to victory for 128 for 7. With 6 balls to spare. Now, despite India's fierce bowling, which was led by Varun Chakravarti, he had a career best of 5 for 17. It was Stubbs' resilience that shone through, levelling the series at 1-1. Let's hear from Stubbs himself.
To make 11 changes to a side, we said to the players, and you just expect them to immediately gel.
With the weather, actually, the slight easterly, most of us knew that player knew it was going to do a bit up front. I think we bowled really well, exceptionally well, and it's a real cricket shot wicket because it nips around, especially when it was chilly, a slight easterly. That really helped us taking those few wickets in the power play up front. And then our spinners contained them really well. I think we were clinical up front in the power play.
Let's go to rugby, where the Springboks started their Autumn Nations series with a 32-15 win over Scotland at Murrayfield, despite a fierce battle from the Scots and a red card for Scott Cummings in the 20th minute. South Africa secured a 19-9 lead by half-time thanks to first-half tries by Makazole Mapimpi and one by Thomas du Toit. Scotland rallied and came within 4 points, but the Boks bench power sealed the game, capped off by Jasper Visser's late try. His Springbok coach, Rassie Erasmus.
To make 11 changes to a side, we said to the players, and you just expect them to immediately gel. It won't always happen like that, but that's certainly something we want to try and get into the team, no matter who you play with, that our systems and our communication and so on is up to scratch always. But then again, we always knew we had some good cover on the bench. And yeah, I know the scoreboard maybe doesn't tell the whole story, but certainly not a performance we're very proud of.
More rugby. The Springbok Women's Sevens coach Renfred Dazel had a win in Accra, Ghana. His squad bagged another Rugby Africa Women's Sevens title, and they secured qualification for the World Rugby Challenger Series next year. South Africa outplayed Kenya 19-10 in the final of the tournament, and Dazel praising his troops for the effort.
Good, but I think this year for us the difference is that we had a proper pre-season. Last year we came into the Africa tournament, not say unprepared, but you didn't have a lot of time to plan and to get the team ready. So you played with seniors, but that was still not sevens fit. For us this year it's slightly different. There's 6 players in the squad that came to Africa for the first time, and I think that is also good for us to see that there is also depth at home.
Soccer action. Mamelodi Sundowns marched towards the final of the 2024 Carling Knockout Cup with a 2-0 win against Marumo Gallants in Bloemfontein yesterday. Sundowns will meet the top-flight rookies Magesi FC in the final. Other soccer news, the South African coach Pitso Mosimane has challenged his Esteghlal FC Chargers to roll up their sleeves like soldiers and fight for their survival in the 2024-25 Iran Persian Gulf Professional League. Now, this was quoted in the Tehran newspaper by the South African in a pre-match interview, which his league team won 1-0 against Mez Rafsanjan. The result earned the former Mamelodi Sundowns boss his first win in 3 games of all competitions. The 60-year-old Mosimane joins Esteghlal FC, and that was last month after having coached Abba Club in Saudi Arabia last season. Elsewhere, Burnley ended a 4-game winless streak. They had a 1-0 victory over Swansea. Ipswich Town secured their first Premier League victory, 2-1, beating Tottenham Hotspur. And Pedro Neto's strike cancelling out Gabriel Martinelli's opener. Arsenal were held to a 1-1 draw at Chelsea, leaving both sides 9 points behind the Premier League leaders Liverpool. And Ruud van Nistelrooy signed off with a win as Manchester United powered to a 3-0 win over Leicester City at Old Trafford. That's the wrap of your Sport on the Morning Brief. More top of the hour. I'm Zai Khan.
The Business Update on SAFM.
Let's turn to Dowling Lechela for that. Good morning to you once again, Dowling. So it would seem the outcome of the elections has been good for Tesla in the United States. You're telling me about their valuation exceeding, get this, $100 trillion.
That's right, Thulas, that market share crossing that $100 trillion mark for the first time in 2 years on Friday. The stock had its best weekly performance in over a year, adding more than $230 billion in market cap. Tesla is now the 7th most valuable company in the US. Everything is speculative at this point. Many analysts are saying that Musk's companies are benefiting from that Trump trade, the Trump victory. Expectations are high that Musk's businesses will receive favorable treatment under Trump's administration thanks to his support during Trump's campaign. Now, this backing could potentially translate into policy decisions that benefit Tesla. Garrett Nelson, senior equity analyst at FRA Research, added that Musk and his companies are perhaps the biggest winners from the election result. and Trump's victory will likely help expedite regulatory approval of the company's autonomous driving technology. And expectations are that Musk will push for favorable regulation of autonomous vehicles and also get the U.S. National Highway Traffic Safety Administration to hold off on potential enforcement actions involving the safety of Tesla's driver assistance systems. Musk has focused on self-driving vehicle technology, ditching plans to build an economy car priced at under $30,000. But development and regulatory hurdles have delayed the commercialization of such technology. So it'll be interesting to see how that little partnership will go as Trump takes up presidency.
It will be interesting because my sense as well during the campaign was that Trump is not really a great fan of electric vehicles. He's all about, where there's oil, drill, baby, drill. And, he did say one or two times that he's not crazy about EVs, but, Elon Musk supports me and he's a great supporter. Let's see how it unfolds. Talk to me about the Foschini Group, TFG, and the increased competition and the impact it's having on them.
So tough conditions across all of its markets have really just weighed on its earnings. TFG experienced lower sales in TFG Africa, including South Africa, TFG Australia, and TFG London. This resulted in a 1.4% decline in revenue and a near 6% fall in earnings. Now, the retailer says it dealt with tough economic conditions where inflation was elevated and consumers were tightening their purse strings, translating to reduced spending. Now, the group, however, managed to keep costs under control, which allowed it to increase its payouts by close to 7%. Moving forward, the retailer expects conditions to improve. It's already noted improved spending. Company CEO Anthony Thurnston said TFG's sales data for the 5 weeks from September to November this year indicate that consumer spending has improved and has been positively affected by policy as well as by improvements in other economic indicators, including a drop in inflation and interest rates. He's added that the group's outlook is being driven by optimism spurred from the formation of the GNU, suspension of load shedding, and the establishment of the two-part retirement system.
Lastly, for this hour, Ndauling, please give us another recap of the markets.
So Asian markets kicking the week off on a sour note, to us, with stocks taking a hit after China's hefty debt package failed to ignite the hoped-for economic boost, leaving investors pretty disappointed. With that, we have Hong Kong's Hang Seng taking the biggest losses there, down over 2%. In Wall Street, futures are in positive territory, extending last week's gains. Futures there pretty upbeat, and focus will be shifting to inflation with the US CPI print due this week. And then coming back home, markets downbeat following emerging market peers. The all-share shedding over 1% in Friday's close. The rand in the meantime on the back foot, trading at 17.61 to the dollar this morning.
All right, we'll talk to you in the third hour of the show. That's Ndauling Lechela, watching your business, economics, as well as the markets here at home and around the world.
Africa Update on SAFM.
Let's turn to Advocate Sipho Mantula. Good morning to you, Raz. I don't believe we talk enough about how inspirational this moment has been for the people of Botswana, for the people of Southern Africa, and I dare say for the continent. The inauguration of new President Duma Gideon Boko took place on Friday.
Refreshing Tulas and Jumbo Africa. I even recall a song of Brendan Monica Tulas, "The Boy Is Mine."
Yes.
When he went on saying, he was saying that if you look back, that is my boy. You say so because you have raised this boy. You love the boy.
The boy is ours.
That this boy loves you. The boy is mine, and this boy is of the SADC. Tulas, a very historic moment that Duma Boko stressed and saying that he wants to avoid squabbles and personal rifts. And he have raised that one of the issues is to deal with economy, deal with the issues of the mining sector, and as well as he believed that this was a very peaceful transfer of power to opposition. Former President Ian Khama was there. Our Deputy President Paul Mashatile was there. Julius Malema was there also, Thulas, and I saw Sophie Mukwena did an extensive interview with the new President Duma Gideon Boko.
Yeah, absolutely. No longer a persona non grata is Julius Malema in Botswana. In Mauritius, there were elections held yesterday. Tell me a bit more about that.
Those elections are very important. They are voting for 62 seats in the parliament, and we know that the Prime Minister, Pravin Jugunnath, is seeking to win a second term. Those elections are with the opposition. If you talk of alliances and coalitions, that's Mauritius for you, Thulas. There are so many that they are electing. They are members to parliament, but also to elect the Prime Minister out of those elections. The AU and the SADC, they are part of the observer mission in Mauritius. Remember the World Bank, Thulas, it says Mauritius is a beacon of success of the Sub-Sahara, looking at its growth economically since COVID-19.
And speaking of elections, another country headed for elections is Cote d'Ivoire, and the opposition there is lining up and getting itself ready with a presidential candidate.
That is not true. Now it means Laurent Gbagbo will not contest. One of his proxy will be the one who's a candidate for his party now. This is the former Prime Minister Pascal Affi N'Guesana, who now was nominated over this weekend as a presidential candidate of the opposition. Ouattara has been mummed to us to say whether they will seek for the fourth term, which I don't believe. It means his party must have another proxy candidate for this 2025 elections in Cote d'Ivoire, Ivory Coast.
And just lastly, before you give us your historical archives, Sipho, an update on the situation in Mozambique. There were these protests that were taking place, borders intermittently closed and reopened. Where do things stand today?
Thulas, what is still today is that we are waiting for Venetia Mohlahlana to speak, to say what will be the next phase. As you know, that his protest was able to say it grounded in success until on Thursday and Friday. But he has asked for his members to wait for him today to come up with another message to Despite that, you say the borders have been open, but there is still tension in Mozambique. It was calm over the weekend, but as I said, they are waiting for this social media announcement from the opposition leader to say what will be the next step. There's issue of occupying the parliament, which I don't think it will work. Others are saying the capital city is under siege, as I said last week from General Piwe Nyanda. Others are saying they've run out of fuel, they are running out of basic commodities in Mozambique, and the SADC summit to us is still hanging in the wings of the wind.
Lastly then, Sipho, in your historical archives, 11 November 1975, what happened?
Today in our neighboring country, Luanda, Angola, it's a public holiday. And why is it a public holiday? Angola was liberated from the Portuguese colonial rule 49 years ago. And you know, when you talk of Angola, you'll never miss the word Agostinho Neto. You'll not miss the name Jonas Savimbi. And at the moment, it's led by João Lourenço. This was the day where they were liberated from the Portuguese colonial powers, from MPLA, Front, FNLA, and as well as UNITA, which was very controversial. We know many liberation movements from Zimbabwe, from the ANC. They have military bases in Angola. And Angola, only after 1993-94, they came back after the conflict that went for many years. Asante sana Thulas, as was in the conversation, SAFM.
Thank you, Sipho. Have a great day. That's Sipho Mandula there with your Africa Update.
Ethical is what defines our business. I think Outsurance does have integrity. They are not just there for the money, they're there to create a relationship. It's like a partner in business. It's the best thing we've ever done to switch over to Outsurance. It's a no-brainer.
Switch to Business Outsurance today and you could get a massive 20% discount on your business insurance premium. SMS quote to 43328. That's quote to 43328 to switch and save today. Licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online.
Did you know the Passenger Rail Agency of South Africa, also known as PRASA, is making strides in restoring passenger rail services affected by infrastructure damage and cable theft? 31 out of 40 priority rail lines are now fully operational, with 266 stations up and running nationwide. The Gibela Train Factory has manufactured 246 trains, and half of these are already being utilized by PRASA, which has completed 35 million passenger trips across different regions to date.
This message is brought to you by the National Department of Transport.
Black Friday is the buzzword of the month, but with the great car insurance savings from Outsurance, you can celebrate Black Friday all year round. SMS out to 30754 for a quote today. If Outsurance can't beat your car insurance premium, ask for 500 Rand cash and make that 1,500 Rand cash if you've been claim-free and with the same insurer for 3 years. Monthly savings if they are cheaper, or cash in your pocket. It's a win-win for you. SMS out to 30754 to switch and save today. That's out to 30754. Outsurance, where you always get something out. A licensed insurer and FSP, T's and C's online.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
There's some heavy traffic on the Ekurhuleni side of Gauteng this morning. N12 Benoni through Boksburg is very slow, and then from Jet Park it's heavy into Galulis, including passing a crash just by before the Edenvale exit. So you've got two really big queues to work through. Also lots of pressure around the exits from the airport. The R21 North up towards Tembisa is heavy into the roadworks. That's really heavy this morning. And the R21 queuing passing the airport, and you stay in traffic all the way onto the R24. The issue there is a crash scene at the Barbara Road exit. So coming out of the airport or coming off the R21 South, that's a really heavy backlog today. All the issues that we had on the M1 between Pretoria and Joburg of East, that includes the collision before Allendale, that is out of the way. So the N1 South is heavy, but it's a normalised sort of queue between Brockfontein and the New Road exit. Irene is busy. All approaches Main and Nell Mapie is absolutely jam-packed. Durban with some rain about, wet weather continuing this morning. Everything on a go slow. Make sure you got time to get through. Kumashu, highway out of Kumashu across the M2 down onto Chris Hani into Durban North. That's really heavy. The M4 jam-packed towards Virginia Airport both ways. Lots of traffic between Westville and Sherwood, whether you're on the N3 or whether you're coming across the bridge works on the M13 down into Sherwood. And no traffic lights as you off ramp at Tollgate Bridge this morning, so some additional delays there. We know about the closure of the N2 between Prospecton and Amanzimtoti. No change there. It is getting really heavy on the side roads and on the N2 South. And interestingly, the N2 North is quite busy today from Amanzimtoti through towards the Prospecton Road exit as well. Cape Town, if you do the run in on Turfall Road through towards Claremont area, so you're sort of coming through into Lansdowne, there's some road works there, big upgrade work. So Turfall Road heading direction Claremont from Newfields, if you like. That's a really unusual and big queue. Traffic lights are still down. Dana Fontaine Road at Ascension, so just south of the N2, there's some backlogging, and lots of traffic on the N7 today, both ways, queuing into Trekker Road, lengthy queues both ways there, and then the N7 from Goodwood all the way up to that busy Bosmansdam Road off-ramp is very slow, and a crash on the M1 inbound to town at Kilbeson, so traffic remains heavy coming through from Belleville. Before you get there, there's also a queue this morning between sort of Justenburg, Kraaifontein and Brackenfell. A lot of traffic on the N1. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Here's what real clients say about Outsurance. Here's Fundi, 46 from Brackenfell.
They give me lesser amount for my car. 523 Rand on my 2013 Hyundai iX35.
Monica, 39 from Three Rivers, pays just 1,515 Rand a month for a 2018 BMW 320i.
Give Outsurance a call. You can't lose.
SMS out to 30754 now. That's out to 30754. Outsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
So why should I use We Buy Cars if I want to sell my vehicle?
Because We Buy Cars buys cars.
But will I get the right price?
Of course. We Buy Cars buys thousands of vehicles and knows exactly what every vehicle is worth. Their buyers deliver exceptional service and pay you immediately.
And how do I know what they'll pay for my vehicle?
It's easy. Visit webuycars.co.za or use the We Buy Cars app. Follow the simple steps and voila, you'll know your car's value in no time. We Buy Cars. Quick, easy, the best.
My name is Bonolo Motuba. I'm 17. My school was far from home and my parents were spending large amounts on transport. That's why they moved me to UCT Online High School, and it's been amazing. With savings on transport and uniforms, I was able to get ahead and stay ahead. Visit uctonlinehighschool.com to learn more. Applications close 29 November 2024.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
Yeah, let's do exactly that. Let's take a few of your phone calls and on the topics that we've raised and others that are exercising your mind this morning. Let me take a call from Thabo, who is in Germiston. Good morning to you, Thabo. You want to talk about spaza shops?
Good morning, Tulas. How are you, my brother?
Very well. How are you?
I'm good, man. Listen, Tulas, I would like to differ a little bit with the Minister Hlabisa.
Yes.
because in the interview, he talked about regulations. Ne?
Yeah.
Listen to us. The municipal bylaws are very clear in terms of, the fact that the hawkers must get permits in order to trade, and also they must trade in designated areas, within the municipal cities. So those bylaws are very clear to us. We don't need any extra regulation or whatever. The only problem that we are sitting with is that of enforcement,
Yeah.
And enforcement is a problem. We've got metro, we've got councillors, we've got SAPs, we've got everybody who are not enforcing these laws.
Sure.
Because of corruption. And I'm going to say this without any, beating about the bushes.
Yes.
It's primarily because of corruption. All what you see, when you see these guys, the Metro Police, the SAPs, that's when they even collect monies from this illegal foreign spaza shops. You see vans on a daily basis parking there just to collect money.
Instead of
on a daily basis.
Instead of enforcing the bylaws. Thank you for that.
Instead of enforcing the bylaws.
Thank you for that. That's Thabo in Germiston there talking about spaza shops. Let me take a call from Kandisa in Mohlahlana. You want to talk to me about Sanco in KwaZulu-Natal and the position they are taking about the ANC. Good morning.
Morning, Thulas. How are you?
Very well. How are you?
Good. Thulas, look, you remember Mbalula has assigned Mpudi and the Sufi. There's a move that they wanted to disband these provinces, ANC provinces, in KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng. And now, when we check Sanco, it's coming with issue of alliance, that there are no meetings that are held by that are being called by ANC in KwaZulu-Natal.
Yes.
And when you analyze, you check other provinces like Northwest, KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng and other provinces, you get only Sanco. It's only party that wants to enjoy. What they enjoy for? Because Sanco is representing the community. And there's no program that Sanco does for us as communities in this country. But they only want position to enjoy themselves. You see? And we cannot, as citizens of South Africa, we say the structure is for community, but it does not do anything for community.
I hear you, Kandisa. Thank you for that. That's Kandisa in Mohlahlana there. Let me take a call from Paul in Stellenbosch. Good morning to you, Paul. You want to talk about casualties in Ukraine?
Yeah, thank you for taking my call. No, I just listened briefly to the interview you had with a professor from Stellenbosch University who made the point that the Russians were sending people. It was in response to your question. I think you were asking for some information about casualty figures, which I think is quite an interesting question to ask because it gives some sense of what's happening on the battlefield over there, okay?
Yes.
And so his comment was very much around the Russians are grinding their own people, sending them through a meat grinder, and they're losing a lot of lives, and they can't even afford that because they lost so many lives back in the 90s. I think that was the context also.
Yes.
And that the Ukrainians are losing, implying far less, but because they're a much smaller population and country, it actually possibly impacts them even worse. Okay, my comment is that I think it'd be useful to get other views that are looking at these things, and there are names like Scott Ritter, Ray McGovern, Larry Johnson, who all ex-retired United States intelligence people who are following that war quite closely, and their view is slightly different, that you have about up to maybe 500,000 Ukrainian soldiers dead and 50 to 60,000 Russian troops dead, and the grinding that's going on is in fact hitting the Ukrainians in an artillery type of war that reflects World War I, and that the Russians in fact are trying to conserve
Right.
And they're going slowly. They're playing the long game. I'm just mentioning that because I think we're getting a very filtered and one-sided view, and those names I mentioned to you are all easily accessible on the judging freedom if you Google that.
Paul, thank you.
Very useful to get them on.
Yes, useful suggestion. Thank you for that. That's Paul in Stellenbosch there. Lastly, let me take a call from David in Durban. Good morning to you, David. You want to respond to what was said by the Premier of KwaZulu-Natal, Tamintul?
Yeah. Thank you very much for taking my call. Just to reiterate what your caller from Germiston said, that the bylaws are not being enforced across the country, I would presume. Because if he's having those problems in Germiston, we have the same problems in Durban. That's number one. Number two, the Premier must address the eThekwini Council. There are men in Durban that urinate at any given point in Durban. And you phone the Metro to complain. I understand that by the time they respond, you don't see the Metro patrolling. The potholes in Durban that they repair and 2 months later they are broken. They have built a substation in Bulwer that has been standing empty for 4 years. The infrastructure is there. The building is done. They have a security guard that stands. I don't know what he's guarding, but he's guarding. And they haven't brought it's like a substation, a huge substation. They haven't brought it into use yet.
Yeah.
The council can't answer the question.
So a question of seeing things through, projects through, as well as enforcing the bylaws that you already have.
Yes, and to see the Durban Metro Police actually patrolling.
Yeah.
You never see them. The only time you see them is when they park outside. There's a spa in Glenwood in the morning between 7 and 8:30. If you want a Metro patrolman, go there. They're there in their tons. It's shocking.
David, thank you for that call. That's David in Durban there, weighing in on some of the issues that we have raised this morning. Bringing us to 8 a.m., time for a news update with N. Musa. Essential cover from Outsurance pays out claims in cash, allowing you to choose your own panel beater. SMS CAR to 43187 now.
In our top stories, Portfolio Committee Chairperson unhappy with withdrawal of the SABC bill and planned truck drivers shut down to go ahead despite ongoing talks. Good morning. Chairperson of Parliament's Communications and Digital Technology Committee, Kusela Sangoni, has expressed a grave concern following reports that the SABC bill has been withdrawn by the Communications Minister, Solly Malatsi. The aim of the bill is to reconsider the financing model of the public broadcaster, as its unfunded public mandate has become near impossible to carry. The bill has been some 16 years in the making. In a statement, Sangoni says the Portfolio Committee was not consulted in this regard. Celine Merrington reports.
Sangoni says while she appreciates that the minister has the rescinding authority, the action to withdraw the bill is inconceived. Cited in media reports, Malatsi is quoted as saying the bill is totally flawed, it does not address the funding model of the public broadcaster, and assigns too much power to the minister in appointing board members. But Sangoni says this is trigger-happy action which serves no purpose but to frustrate and disrupt processes already underway, and that this could be the death knell for the financially hamstrung public broadcaster. In the previous parliament, the process to enact the bill reached the stage of public consultations. Sangoni says none of the issues raised by civil society and the DA are insurmountable.
The Gauteng government has decided to ban the sale of Tobufos, a pesticide which was found to have caused the recent deaths of 6 Soweto children. Gauteng Premier Panyaza Lesufi says only licensed businesses will be able to sell the pesticide, also known as Halipirimi. Lesufi was speaking in Johannesburg yesterday following a meeting with MECs, mayors and MMCs on implementing bylaws and regulations for spaza shop operations in the province. The meeting comes amidst the spike in foodborne illnesses which have since claimed the lives of 23 children in the province, with 441 cases reported. Lesufi says traders must abide by prescribed regulations.
We have agreed, all of us,
that substance is banned in our province and that it must not be found in shops, it must not be found in informal traders, and that the law enforcement agencies will assist us to eliminate it where possible. But those that are authorized, the Department of Agriculture will be the where-to institution that will give the licensing and the permission to utilize that.
The newly appointed MK Party Secretary General Floyd Shivambu has clarified his recent U-turn on the former President Jacob Zuma. During his tenure as EFF Deputy President, Shivambu and other party MPs were at the forefront, calling for Zuma's removal as the country's president during former Public Protector Thuli Madonsela's investigation into the multi-million rand upgrade at his Nkandla homestead in KwaZulu-Natal. Speaking to SABC News, Shivambu, who was the national organizer and now the Secretary General of MK, says they were misled about Zuma.
During President Zuma's presidency, there was a lot of falsehoods that were spread by the media, that there's a house which is built in Dubai, like a huge mention of 400 million, all sorts of falsehoods, by the way. And we fell into that trap and joined into that nonsense of saying there's everything wrong with President Zuma. And then we called for the commission of inquiry into so-called state capture. But when the revelations came on the state capture, we realized that actually there is nothing which has been alleged President Zuma had done wrong. Like this, objectively nothing that represents any state capture from his side. But we fell into the trap because the politics which I am purposefully departing from.
The All Truck Drivers Forum says its planned shutdown will go on as planned today, despite ongoing talks with government officials in an effort to avert the strike. The truck drivers have expressed concerns over the employment of foreign nationals as well as challenging working conditions. Sifundi Sobeja is the Deputy Secretary General of the All Truck Drivers Forum.
The planned shutdown is still going ahead today, even though there are some provinces where there are some negotiations with some government officials, but the planned shutdown does still go on today as planned. One of the challenges we figured was some of the negotiations we had was with the previous administration. Some of the leadership that we have in the various provinces now are new. So the commitments which were made in the sixth administration have not been kept.
And finally, the newly elected Botswana President Duma Boko says he's humbled by people trusting him with the responsibility to lead the country. Boko was elected the President of Botswana after the recent elections in that country. Speaking to SABC News, he says he will ensure the challenges of the economy are addressed.
We were able to present a message that spoke to the existing circumstances, but also offer hope for how the situation can be made better for all the citizens of the country. And a message that we were able to take to all parts of the country, to every citizen as best we could. And that message resonated sufficiently with the citizens.
Recapping the top story, Chairperson of Parliament's Communications and Digital Technology Committee, Kusela Sangoni, has expressed a grave concern following reports that the SABC bill has been withdrawn by the Communications Minister, Solly Malatsi. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
And that's the news for this hour. Theft, accident and 1 million rand liability cover, all covered by Outsurance Essential. Get a quote today, SMS CAR to 43187. 39-year-old Zagiti loves Outsurance Essential because it's low-cost insurance designed for older cars. For her 2011 VW Polo 1.6 Trendline, she only pays 525 rand a month. With Outsurance Essential, you get up to 1 million rand liability cover. That means if you cause an accident, the other car could be covered for up to 1 million rand. Add even more value with the motor warranty, which covers you for mechanical or electrical breakdowns. Get saving with Outsurance Essential for unfinanced cars older than 5 years and valued at less than 130,000 rand. SMS CAR to 43187. That's CAR to 43187 today. Licensed insurer and FSP, T's, C's and information online.
SAFM. guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Very busy around the Ekurhuleni side of Gauteng. We're tracking delays, big delays on the R21 away from the airport. The roadworks up by the NGen 1 stop opposite Tembisa. The queues back through Botswana Road and back towards the R23 Benoni exit. Still a crash coming out of the airport or off the R21 onto the R24. That collision down by Barber Road. There's some pressure between Benoni and Boksburg on the N12. Then it all jams up from Jet Park through to the busy N3 link. Sad Galuli's interchange as well. A lot of pressure into Sandton this morning. Ravonia Road, Bryanston Drive, Winnie Mandela, Sandton Drive's all very slow if you're heading into central Sandton. Just make sure you got time to get through. Durban, some fairly big traffic on the N3 today. Got two queues. Pavilion through Sherwood coming through Spaghetti Junction, and then the lights are down at Tollgate Bridge, and that always causes chaos on the N3 inbound and really gets in the way of motorists wanting to off-ramp at Tollgate. So expect some trouble there. Westfield through Sherwood, the M13's heavy. M4 at Virginia Airport, very heavy going both ways there as well. And if you're driving Cape Town this morning, N7 northbound through Goodwood and then up towards Bosmansdam stays heavy, and a lot of traffic on Marine Drive this morning, probably a little bit worse than you might be expecting, queuing up from Sunningdale through to Racecourse Road by the Paddocks, and then shortly thereafter from Milnerton High School, so backed up through towards Lagoon Beach and the Boundary Road junction. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
A very good morning to you in your SFM Sports headlines. We look ahead to the big rugby weekend where the Springboks will take on England and the All Blacks facing France. And tennis action, Yannick Sinner opens the ATP finals with a win over Alex de Minaur. Details around 8:30.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
8:10 on this Monday. Good morning, South Africa. This is the Morning Brief on SAFM. We are into the third hour of the show, and we've started quite a number of conversations, key amongst which, for me at least, has been these regulations that have been promulgated and gazetted by the Minister of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, Velenkosi Hlabisa. As I said earlier on, they're quite extensive. They cover everything from the issue of permitting and licensing of all businesses in the township and rural economies. The minister telling me in an interview earlier on that all businesses will need to get these permits and be registered one way or another for regulation purposes. But there's a caveat there that for you to get this permit, you will then need to comply with a number of other, conditions, mainly to do with the handling of food and other items that are sold to the public, hygiene issues, and ensuring that there's no contamination with the likes of pesticides, for example. It also goes as far as to talk about, transferability of a permit, that the municipality will play a role there. You can't simply decide, I'm going to transfer this permit to the next person because I don't want to trade anymore. I encourage you to engage with those regulations. Basically now, what remains is for municipalities to take those and adopt them as a bylaw in each and every municipality. The minister crafting the regulations in that way so that it becomes easy to just take and adopt as a bylaw of every municipality. We've touched a bit on maths education and the level at which our children and pupils in South Africa at grade 3 and grade 6, the level at which they are being tested, according to a UNESCO report, the level is not where it should be. And of course, we've talked a bit about that specific pesticide called Tebofos, which is commonly known as halipirimi. And Victor Khomyaswane rightly correcting me that halipirimi doesn't mean the sun won't rise with you being alive, but it actually means the sun won't set with you being alive if you happen to consume it. So those are the conversations we've put on the table. We want to hear from you. What's on your mind this morning? Engage with us. The number to dial is 086 000 2032. I'll also take your WhatsApp voice notes on 061 410 4107. The third hour of the Monday edition of the Morning Brief starts now.
It's Valley Weekend on a high note with Final Analysis on Sunday night. Tune in to Final Analysis every Sunday night and stand a chance to win a hamper worth 10,000 Rand, courtesy of Diadora and SABC Sport. Final Analysis. the premium wrap-up show, giving you match highlights, final scores, post-game reactions, expert analysis, and sport news weekend roundup of the local and international arena. Catch Final Analysis every Sunday at 8 p.m. on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and 10 p.m. on SABC 3. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Hashtag We've Got It All. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Call Thulasizwe now. 086 000 2032.
Yeah, let's take some of your voice notes now. Let me start with these three that have to do with the issue of mathematics education before we move to other themes.
Thulas, good morning. My own lived experience regarding the performance of the grade 4 learners is that the management of schools now are appointed based on the affiliation to a union called SATU, and majority of these people don't have the knowledge or even the leadership and management skills. Moreover, they have discouraged the Department of Education to appoint principals based on their instructional supervision skills. Therefore, the principals may not know if the children are taught the correct skills or not. So that is the main challenge here, because the leaders of schools don't have any clue with regards to the level or the expected level of performance of a particular grade.
I take the point you make and the role of trade unions within the education system, but I believe what the report points to goes beyond that and talks to the materials themselves as they relate to teaching mathematics for the purposes of our curriculum policy statement CAPS. But I do take the point that you make about the role of unions and appointment processes in school management.
Good morning. This is Dr. Sanco from Pretoria. I don't know how this education system works in South Africa, but myself, when I was in first year at the University of Venda, I could not speak English, I could not read proper, but I passed English. When I was writing my grade 12 English, I could see or I could not pass. They adjusted these numbers and somehow we pass. Yeah, no, it's a very challenge. Our system is not right at all.
Sure.
It has to be worked.
Absolutely. Can't agree with you more that we do need to work on the system.
Listen, guys, it's Pumelele Ngam from Pietermaritzburg. You can give it fancy names, CAPS, curriculum, and do whatever. The point of the matter is South Africa is not prioritizing maths and physics and all the other STEM subjects. It's prioritizing languages. If you fail a language, you repeat the grade. If you fail maths, it's all good. We go forward. We are just not prioritizing these STEM subjects. So you can give it all these fancy names, but the point of the matter is simple. South Africa doesn't care about those subjects. South Africa cares about languages. AfriForum is not going to court to fight for the protection of maths. They're going to court to fight for the protection of Afrikaans. So let's not give it fancy names, caps, hats, t-shirts, whatever. It's just plain and simple. We are not prioritizing STEM subjects.
All right, something has got to change then if that is the perspective, that we are not prioritizing STEM subjects in an era where technology leads, right? So we would need to get our priorities straight if that's the sense that you are getting. The other big conversation, of course, has been around this pesticide table force, a so-called street pesticide, but also the regulations that have been introduced by the Minister of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs to try and ensure that in the workings of business and townships, there's no mixing of pesticides with foodstuff. Let's listen to some of your voice notes on that topic.
Mhlegas, you see, the other thing, my brother, sorry to come back. The other thing is that this chemical called alipirimi, it has been banned more than 10 years ago. You know, Lusufi should not try to be smart and a clever of some kind. No, because this chemical has been banned many years ago. There's nothing creative and progressive in him trying to say, I'm banning it now in Gauteng. It has been banned so many years ago. So he must never try to be smart with us.
All right, I hear you. But of course, the fact that this coalition of civil society organizations, just before the ban was announced, was actually calling for a ban, says there's some nuance there in terms of the status, the true status of this table force, Halipirimi.
Good morning. I don't understand why is there a report that a drug has been banned, a pesticide has been banned, as if it's a new thing, when it's been like an open secret that people were using it legally. They knew that it's a banned pesticide from the get-go. So making it a rule as if it's something new, it's like reinventing the wheel. I mean, there's nothing new in that. It's been known that it's an illegal pesticide to use. That is why it was sold in the sly in the first place. It was not sold in the open market.
Yeah. No, I hear you, and I take the point you are making. Again, I go back to what this coalition of civil society organizations had to say about this specific pesticide, Halipirimi Teboforce. I suppose what they're saying is that there's been a regulatory gap that has allowed for its continued use. So I hear both of the points you make, both of you, that it's been banned for quite some time, but it seems it continued to be used in South Africa because of a regulatory gap that allowed it to continue to be used, and that is what they were calling for, and I suppose that's what the Premier of Gauteng and others are seeking to finally bring under control. Thank you for those. We'll take a few more a bit later on here on the show.
Upgrade your TV game with the SABC TV License Rewards. It's your golden ticket to VIP treatment. Imagine signing up at sabctvlicenserewards.co.za, breezing through a few steps, and bam! Instant reward, just for being you. Plus, pocket up to 500 Rand back. That's the cherry on top. But wait, it's not just about the cash. We're talking about sweet deals and epic rewards. Think discounts on all your favorite things, from shopping to travel and entertainment. Your payment unlocks a world of fun. So, why wait? Dive into the excitement. Join the SABC's TV License Rewards at sabctvlicenserewards.co.za. Hit those buttons and watch your TV experience level up. T's and C's apply. Remember, TV license fees aren't just payments, they make a difference.
For 120 years, Rhodes University has shaped history. From Sir George Corey's pioneering 62 conversations capturing the early history of the Eastern Cape, to the first email to be sent in South Africa, and now leading the way in nanotechnology. Rhodes University is more than an educational institution. We are a legacy in motion. Be part of the evolving legacy. Rhodes University, where leaders learn.
This summer, we have extra large offers on Ford Ranger XL, XLT and Wildtrak from only 481,900 for a Ranger XL single cab 4x2. It's the extra large Ranger offer from only 481,900. Visit your nearest participating Ford dealer. Optional service plan included. While stocks last. T&Cs apply.
Eskom has made it easy for you to recode your meter. Customers must recode meters by 24 November 2024. All Eskom customers are reminded to recode their prepaid meters before 24 November 2024. If your meter is not recoded, it will not accept legally bought prepaid electricity tokens. Eskom has made this process easy for you. We have pre-coded all meters and they are ready for you to recode your meter yourself. To do this, go to any Eskom approved electricity outlet and buy an electricity credit token. Our teams are on standby to help you.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
At 22 minutes after 8, let's turn our attention to this story now. Experts say despite what the Health Minister Aaron Motsoaledi says, money from the Public Investment Corporation PIC cannot be used to build hospitals and by implication fund the National Health Insurance. This comes after the minister responded to a parliamentary question about the implementation of the NHI, saying the PIC has always been considered an option decision to fund the building of public hospitals. But some experts say the PIC has to invest money in areas that derive a financial return, and this does not happen with public hospitals. Let's take the conversation forward. Professor Alex van den Heever, who is Chair of Social Security Systems Administration and Management Studies at Wits University, joins me now. Good morning to you, Prof. Thank you for your time. So your take then on this proposal that an investment of some kind or another from the PIC could help to build better public hospitals and in that way support the implementation of the NHI?
Yes, essentially it can't be done. Despite the fact that the PIC controls a lot of money, it is not government money and it is not part of the public budget. It is essentially a reserve that has been accumulated to enable the payment of pensions for government employees. So the money it's already allocated. It's got a different purpose, and its investments that it has are in commercial enterprises that derive a return on investment. They can't be used for giving grants to build public facilities. Government has a budget for that. It's got the current tax regime. It borrows its own money, and that's where it should derive its source of revenue from. This is not that kind of money.
I don't imagine, Prof, and I'm not don't purport to speak on behalf of the minister. I don't imagine that he imagines it being a source of grant funding for the building of hospitals to support the NHI. My understanding of what he's talking about is an investment case to be made to the PIC so that the PIC can make that investment prudently. You don't believe that there's a world in which that is possible?
No, I don't, because there is no investment case where you derive no return. In fact, every cent you spend is effectively lost from an investment perspective. If you invest in a commercial enterprise, your capital will be invested, and if you've loaned money, you'll get a return on investment. You'll get an interest that you earn. If you invest in a commercial enterprise, your capital will be invested. That business will run and derive a return on its investments, and that money will go back into the PIC. When you basically purchase or build a public facility, the money is basically spent in the asset itself. It doesn't derive any return whatsoever. So it's not the kind of vehicle for which you can allocate the money in the PIC. And it's also important to note that the PIC doesn't control this money. It's got nothing to do with the PIC. It's the Government Employees Pension Fund. And they have their own board, and they have their own investment requirements that they place on the PIC. So the PIC doesn't have a discretion to use those funds as a kind of a slush fund for any old project. It's got to be something that is consistent with the purpose of maintenance of a pension asset.
Not even the model of concessioning, build, own, and transfer kind of model would work in this case?
That could work if the private sector side of a public-private partnership arrangement had to take out a loan in order to build a public facility. But that loan, at the end of the day, that asset that is then being created in the public-private partnership, the return that is derived then is paid by the taxpayer on that. So theoretically that would be possible if there was a commercial investment that was viable from the private partner in that arrangement. So then it becomes a pure commercial enterprise.
Yeah. So if this is a roadblock, then if this is a financing and funding roadblock and no-go for the NHI, where should government be looking to fund its implementation?
Well, there's two parts to funding a health system. One is building the assets and maintaining them, and the other is paying salaries, the recurrent expenditure. And the problem that they have is the recurrent expenditure is the NHI proposal, suggested at some point they're going to introduce a new tax that will raise the equivalent of the amount of money that is being spent on medical schemes, and that would become available to the NHI fund. This, is very unlikely to be realized. There's no way you can raise funds like that ordinarily, even through the tax system. The tax system is already at tax capacity. So that's part of the problem they have, is that the actual concept itself can't be financed as such. the building of assets in the public sector, which has nothing to do with the NHI, which is something that government should be prioritizing every single year, that's an issue that people have to look at. And a large part of that problem is a large part of the money's been stolen. So the procurement of these assets in the public sector, the corruption around facility-related procurement is a real problem. And that means that we're getting 50 cents in the rand on everything spent on public infrastructure around hospitals. So this has to stop. We have to get value for money in our investments, and a large part of that is changing the governance structures in the provinces and the procurement processes. And there doesn't appear to be a political will to deal with that, but people are very happy to look around for more money to throw at a system that's basically stealing it.
All right, thank you for your time and your inputs this morning. That's Professor Alex van den Heever, who is Chair of Social Security Systems Administration and Management Studies at Wits University.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
Let me take one or two quick voice notes. Let's take this one on issues to do with teachers this morning.
Morning to us, it's Vugan from Durban. I just want to request you to invite the Department of Education to explain this misperception that when a teacher is dismissed from one school, they can go to another school. I don't think it works that way. You can't be dismissed, for instance, from the SABC News and then pop up at Sports News. So please invite them to correct the misperception that has been happening in the media recently. Thank you.
I hear you, Vugane, and I suppose that conversation comes from that issue around the abuse of children, of pupils in school, the sexual abuse of pupils. There have been the civil society organizations that have done a bit of work in tracking the ability of a person to be dismissed and disciplined in one area and then pop up in a different school. But I hear what you are saying, that it would be interesting to hear directly from the Department of Basic Education the extent to which that is possible. At 8:30, let's check in with N. Musa now with the latest news headlines.
Good morning. Thanks to us. In the headlines, the City of Johannesburg says it will meet with the Electricity Minister, Josiane Ramokgopa, and Eskom today to try to resolve the multi-billion rand debt issue. Eskom has threatened to interrupt electricity supply to the metro. Chairperson of Parliament's Communications and Digital Technology Committee, Kusela Sangoni, has expressed a grave concern following reports that the SABC bill has been withdrawn by the Communications Minister, Solly Malatsi, and the Free State Education Department says it will put in place measures this week to regulate food vendors at schools around the province. This follows food poisoning incidents that affected more than 100 learners across the province between Wednesday and Friday. I'll have details on these and other stories at 9.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Just a heads up, if you're driving Majuba Pass area, Newcastle through to Volksstrasse, there's been a tanker crash. I understand the tanker is empty, so that's good, but it needs to be recovered, so there may well be some disruption during the sort of closure and recovery of that vehicle. So just a heads up for this morning, possibly a couple of hours, a few hours, maybe a disruption through Majuba Pass. Joburg side, the R21 away from the airport stays heavy up towards the engine service. This is at Tembisa roadworks there. The backlog is extreme. If you're coming out of the airport, you might want to hit some side roads. Also a crash heading out of the airport on the R24 at Barber Road, causing some delays as well. Broken down vehicle on the M1 North at New Road. So if you're on your way to Pretoria, that is quite slow. Durban in the rain this morning. The big backlog that we had coming off Monsamtoti through towards Prospect and Durban, but that's all being cleared up. The N2 South is now queuing heavily down into Joiner Road. The queue there and then the forcing of the traffic onto local routes is Bingo Prospect and will just continue to get even busier and even heavier. Avoid it between 3 p.m. and 7 p.m. because it just becomes unbearable. The N3 inbound to Durban, lights out at Tollgate Bridge, so an extra delay on that run through this morning into Berea area. And Cape Town still very busy on the N1. There's some queuing pressure. Kraaifontein, Brackenfell, crash at Durban Road, causing a secondary delay from Brackenfell, and then you hit traffic all the way from N1 City over the elevated freeway. M5's heavy this morning all the way through to Kuiper, Interchange, and the N2 inbound backing up from Langa through towards the Hospital Bend area. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This broadcast is powered by Hollywood Bets. We bet you'll love it here. This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Sure, Zai, just as we are coming up for air, after an enthralling weekend on the sporting front, you hit us again.
Yeah,
already
hard.
Looking ahead at the rugby in this coming weekend.
Imagine, after conquering Scotland, you are ready to take on
England.
Yeah.
The Roses.
Come London. Yeah, it's going to be amazing. And I just can't wait for the Springboks. We're definitely going to rally behind them. England's on the horizon and it's going to be fierce, that's for sure. Kickoff is at 7:20 in the evening. This is the Springboks facing against England in London, coming off that solid 32-15 win over Scotland. The Boks will need to step up against an England team that are desperate for redemption after back-to-back losses. Coach Rassie Erasmus acknowledging the mixed emotions from their previous victory, emphasizing the need for better on-field synchronization and injury management. Now, the weekend also boasts another exciting matchup as France will take on the All Blacks later that evening. Let's stay with rugby, where the Springbok Women's Sevens coach Renfred Dazel is in Accra, Ghana, after his squad bagged another Rugby Africa Women's Sevens title, and by doing so, secured qualification for the World Rugby Challenger Series next year. South Africa outplayed Kenya 19-10 in the final of the tournament, and Dazel praising his troops for their effort delivered in tough conditions at the University of Ghana Rugby Stadium.
Good, but I think this year for us the difference is that we had a proper pre-season. Last year we came into the Africa tournament, not say unprepared, but you didn't have a lot of time to plan and to get the team ready. So you played with seniors, but that was still not sevens fit. For us this year it's slightly different. There's 6 players in the squad that came to Africa for the first time, and I think that is also good for us to see that there is also depth at home.
And last night in Gqeberha, the cricket action saw the Proteas claw back from the edge to clinch a nail-biting 3-wicket victory over India in the second T20 International. Chasing 125 runs, South Africa stumbled at 66 for 6 in the 13th over, but middle-order hero Tristan Stubbs took charge, delivering an unbeaten 47 of 41 balls, guiding the Proteas to victory for 128 for 7 with 6 balls to spare. Stubbs' resilience shining through, levelling the series at 1-1. Let's hear from Stubbs himself.
With the weather, actually, the slight easterly, most of us knew that player knew it was going to do a bit up front. I think we bowled really well, exceptionally well, and it's a real cricket shot wicket because it nips around, especially when it was chilly, a slight easterly. That really helped us taking those few wickets in the power play up front. And then our spinners contained them really well. I think we were clinical up front in the power play.
And tennis action, Yannick Sinner defeated Alex de Minaur 6-3, 6-4 in the opening match of the ATP Finals in Torino, while Taylor Fritz made a winning start in Turin, beating Daniel Medvedev 6-4, 6-3. And Golf England's Paul Waring held off a stellar field to win the Abu Dhabi Championship, claiming just his second title on the European Tour. And finally, it was Austin Eckroat who won the Worldwide Technology Championship with a final round of 63. Eckroat closed the tournament with a bogey on the 18th, but that was enough to finish at 24 under, a stroke away from Justin Lower and Carson Young. That's our sport. On the morning brief, we'll have more sport on SAFM around 12:30 with John Hedeker. I'm Zai Khan.
The Business Update on SAFM.
Let's say good morning once more to Ndauling Lechelan Ndauling. It's not just South Africans that are concerned about the price of food. There's a global food price index, and it's also showing an 18-month high.
That's right, Thulas, and this is the UN's Food and Agriculture
organization's global food price index. It surged to an 18-month high in October, mainly being driven by a 7.3% increase in vegetable oil prices. The FAO Food Price Index, which tracks international prices of food commodities, averaged 127.4 points last month, up 2% from September and 5.5% from the same period last year. Now, this rise is attributed to concerns over production, particularly for palm, soy, sunflower, and rapeseed oils. Other food categories that also saw increases. This includes the FAO Cereal Price Index, which rose 0.9%, led by wheat and maize. Price hikes due to, those were led by price hikes rather, due to unfavorable weather conditions in major exporting countries. The sugar price index increased by 2.6% amid concerns over Brazil's production outlook. Dairy prices also rose, with cheese and butter prices driving the 1.9% increase. But not all food categories saw price increases. The meat price index dropped 0.3%, due to lower pork prices resulting from increased slaughter rates in Western Europe. Now, global poultry prices also fell slightly, while beef prices increased due to stronger international demand. The FAO also revised its forecast for global cereal production in 2024, predicting a 0.4% decline from the previous year to 2.84 million tons. This decrease is due to expected declines in maize output, while wheat and rice production are expected to increase this year.
Tell us about Westpac Lifestyle finding a buyer. They've been in business rescue, haven't they?
That's right, Thulasizwe. After entering business rescue in May this year, Westpac Lifestyle has been acquired by a private buyer, securing over 1,100 jobs that were at risk. Now, according to a Business Day article, the sale was finalized last month following a hectic negotiation process with 18 interested buyers. The business rescue plan, initiated due to financial distress and owing 118 million rands to creditors, has yielded a successful outcome. The new owner will operate through newly established companies, preserving 30 corporate stores and 40 franchise stores. Westpac's financial troubles initially stemmed from aggressive growth, economic challenges, and rapid expansion. Creditors, including ABSA, Access Bank, and Preference Capital, had claimed significant amounts. The business rescue process took about 6 months and is considered a good result given the complexity and size of the business.
Yeah, it always looked like an attractive business, at least to my untrained mind. With about 20 minutes to go before the resumption of trade in Ndauling, what kind of a Monday are we looking at on the JSE as well as elsewhere in the world?
The local markets are poised to start the day mixed, taking lead from its emerging market peers. In terms of company news, traders will be waking up to earnings reports from Raubex, Omnia, and the big one for the day, Vodacom. Moving over to currency markets, trade quite choppy there following the dollar strength we saw last week. The rand taking a breather this morning, sitting at 17.60 to the greenback. US futures in the meantime are in positive territory ahead of US CPI data. Traders on that front will also be eyeing commentary from Fed officials for clues on the direction of monetary policy moving forward. Lastly, in Asia, stocks mixed, with Japanese markets making a comeback, trading slightly above the flat line. Chinese stocks, however, still in the red following that disappointing debt package and inflation data.
All right, thank you for that. Have yourself a great day. That's Ndauling Lechela there. She's been updating you on all things to do with business, the economy, as well as the markets here at home and around the world for the past 3 hours here on The Morning Brief.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
All right, I do want to take one or two of your calls in a moment. Let me see if I can go to that immediately right now. Let's see. No, we don't have any calls yet. I tell you what, let's take a breather and then I'll continue in just a moment.
Big stories of the day. #The Morning Brief.
All right, let's go to this story now. It's about the future of work. The future of work and innovation in an age of rapid technological advancements will be under the spotlight at this year's Future of Work dialogue as it gets underway, and that will be happening in Pretoria this morning. It is hosted by the Tshwane University of Technology, and it's the Institute for the Future of Work, and the dialogue will focus on, among other issues, the legacy of higher education in Africa's global positioning, innovation, and, as I said, the future of work in the midst of all of these technological advancements. Let's welcome on the line, Dr. Unin Gregory, who is Manager for Public-Private Partnerships, and she joins me now for that conversation. Good morning to you, Doc. Thank you for your time. When we say this is the Future of Work dialogue, what exactly is under the spotlight at such a dialogue?
Good morning, Buti. So the dialogue focuses on the changing ways in which technology is affecting current ways of work. So how emerging technology is offsetting traditional work ways, how AI and automation are changing industries and the way in which we work, and how we as a continent, as a people, can leverage these changes to spearhead and catapult Africa into a future-ready state. So we are knowledge creators and not just consumers.
And how does that then, how do we filter that into the South African higher education system? You have quite a number of people that you're saying will be there, about 400 speakers and delegates. What's your thinking around pulling that such that it reflects the realities of our higher education system?
Yes. So historically speaking, university has been seen as the ivory towers where knowledge is created and almost ring-fenced and siloed, right? But as the nature of work changes, we are seeing an impetus to hold hands and collaborate with industry, government, and civil society to ensure that our curriculum speaks to societal problems and what needs to be addressed. So in bringing together the multi-sector stakeholders that we are bringing, we want to have an open discussion on what each of these stakeholders need to bring to the table to make sure that we create and foster inclusive economic growth. So from a higher education perspective, it comes back to looking at our curriculum and seeing what we need to bake in and foster to ensure that our students are future ready, that they can take these technologies that are coming up and really run with them and create solutions that not only fit and address African problems, but also global problems.
Are there pockets and centers of excellence that you are starting to see that are doing exactly that, such that there's a responsiveness in terms of the offerings of higher education to the realities of the emerging, new, technologically driven and advanced economy?
Interestingly enough, when we look at universities of technology, like the one I represent, TUT, we've had a very close relationship with industry. Right, and this has been on multiple fronts, from experiential learning for our students to doing research for industry, so that we have that symbiotic relationship in knowing what is happening with industry and the current trends. So when looking at pockets of excellence, University of Technologies are still leading the charge in terms of what is happening, having that ear to the ground in terms of industry trends. But we're also looking at a lot of incubators and accelerators that are really bridging that gap between looking at the innovations and ideas that people bring on and merging that to markets and realizing those innovations into tangible products.
And talk to me about the theme of innovation. I see that it's quite a big theme within the dialogue itself. Why is that, and why is innovation something that should be of focus in today's economy?
So looking at the historical nature of our continent, we've often been a resource bank for the world. Innovation is what is going to help us move from just producing raw materials and shipping them out, and then bringing in finished products and technologies to then consume, to transitioning to becoming creators of those solutions, creators of those innovations that then we can then export to the world. We are sitting on a gold mine in terms of resources, that's a given, but also in terms of the large population of youth that we have. Rightly skilled and given the opportunity and empowered, they are what's going to be our game changer in making sure we turn the tides and the narrative of Africa. from consumers to innovators and creators. And that's what the dialogue is about, leveraging what seems to be challenges into opportunities for the continent.
All right, I've got to thank you for your time. By the way, did I pronounce your name correctly? Is it Unene Unin?
Unene Gregory.
Unene. I thought to myself, maybe it's I anglicized it when actually it is Unene. Thank you for your time this morning.
Thanks, Woody.
That's Dr. Unene Gregory there talking to us about the Future of Work dialogue, which is hosted by the Tshwane University of Technology.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Biggest delay around Gauteng currently, the R21 North leaving the airport on way to Pretoria. It's the road works up by the engine services. Lanes are closed for the construction, and traffic is heavy. It's back through Bobsfontein Road and back towards the Benoni exit. Might want to try the alternative Pretoria Road, which will be busy, but which will probably be quicker. N1 North and South queuing up to the Winnie Mandela off-ramp to four-way. Still no traffic lights there for the longest time, and it is a perennial ongoing problem. Durban's M4 between Umhlanga and Virginia Airport on your way to town is busy this morning, and we're queuing quite heavily already through the Prospect and Isipingo areas, including the N2. Big queues there towards the Joiner Road enforced closure, Prospecton Road, and the bottom of sort of Wanda Clally Road as you go down into Umbogan 20. Just busy with the extra traffic that diverts onto those roads. It will stay busy all day. Tanker crash recovery due in, if it's not already underway, at Majuba Pass. If you're going between Newcastle and Falkirk today, just expect some delays, possibly for 3 hours this morning, is one estimate that I've heard. The N1 into Cape Town, a crash at Durban Road in Belleville. That's heavy from Brackenfell. The R300 pushing back beyond the old Powell Road off-ramp. R300 struggling to get into that N1 crash queue. And the M5 is quite slow this morning, queuing up still towards the N2 highway, and roadworks are in place. Long line of cones out this morning on Turfall Road as you come through the bottom of the Cape Flats area in towards sort of Lansdowne area and up towards the Racecourse Road and the M5. So if you're heading for the M5 on Turfall Road, it really is a very heavy backlog. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Only the team that plays the best cricket on the day will enjoy the last laugh. South Africa and India are both hungry to wrap the T20 International Series on the highest possible note. What a summer without cricket! Do not miss out on the fourth and final T20 International battle between South Africa and India on Friday, 15 November at 4:30 p.m. live on SABC3 and 4 p.m. on Radio 2000 with reports on various SABC radio stations. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
Did you know, since its establishment in 1998, SANRAL has expanded the national road network from 6,700 kilometers to 24,160 kilometers over 25 years. To improve road safety and efficiency, Operation Vala Zonke, a pothole repair program, is addressing pothole challenges in partnership with provincial and local governments. In the 2023-2024 financial year alone, 9,392 potholes have been fixed. Over the past decade, the provincial road maintenance grant has transferred 106.4 billion rand to the 9 provinces to enhance road quality.
Brought to you by the National Department of Transport.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
Yeah, let's fire up the Ideas Refinery. We've put a number of topics on the table and we want to hear from you as well as other topics that are exercising your mind this morning. Earlier on, we referred to the appointment of Floyd Shivambu as the new Secretary General of Umkhonto weSizwe Party. A few of you reflecting on that this morning.
Thulas, morning. You know, Floyd Shivambu, who's this guy, Galimpofu, what's happening within the EFF? It's just showing the voters, us normal voters, that this is really politics of stomach, as they call it. politicians don't really care, they just care about themselves, because you cannot be screaming state capture this, state capture that, Zuma has crippled the country, and then you go and join him. You think we've forgotten? What about those of us who took you serious and then voted for you twice? So, but now you're going to join him, so it meant nothing. And as for Dalimpofu, nobody voted for the EFF because of Dalimpofu was there. And nobody's going to stop voting for the EFF because Dalimpofu left. Nobody's going to vote for the MK because Dalimpofu is there. He's just an aggressive lawyer. Thank you.
No, I hear you. But remember, you will have heard what Floyd Shivambu is saying, speaking to the SABC last night, I believe, that they were, quote-unquote, misled about all the things that they were saying about former President Jacob Zuma, and basically saying that there was this narrative that was largely led by the media, and they fell into it, and therefore the things that they said. But that's all water under the bridge at this point.
Good morning, Thulasizwe and the listeners. This is Pilani Kumalo in Boksburg in Gauteng. MK appointing Floyd Shivambu to be the party's Secretary General. I think it's a good move by President Jacob Zuma, former president, because it will put his party firmly in the national platform. Remember, Floyd Shivambu already has a national figure command in terms of politics. He is known nationally, and his political history is known. The man is very controversial, obviously, but that's what the MK party needs anyway, because most of the people that are in the MK party have got questionable characters, and that's what the party guns for. So I think Zuma did well there, because it will also break the boundaries of tribalism, thinking that it's only Zulus that must occupy high post in MK.
Yeah. All right. Thank you for that. And I think maybe that's an important consideration as well, as the MK party seeks to grow and extend its tentacles to reach across all the country, and actually its appeal, to improve its appeal. I take the point that you make there about the appointment of Floyd Shivambu as the Secretary General of the MK. John in Davidton, I'll take a call from you. You want to talk to me about whether we are prioritizing mathematics over languages. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you today?
Very well. How are you, John?
Yes, I talk as an educator.
Sure.
A retired educator. Yes. The issues of language, especially in former model C schools, it's the majority of model C schools now are dominated by black people. In most places, where I stay in Basel, Nockham Park, and Bradford, it's black. They are forced to do. I'm using this. They are forced to do Afrikaans and English.
Sure.
And if they were to do their own mother tongue languages, it's Venda, Tonga, Swazi, Sutus. In terms of human resources, they cannot maintain that, because, for example, Xhosas may be 10, Zulus 20, Tongas 15, in a school that is 1,500 children.
Yeah.
How are you going to make sure that each child's language is catered for in terms of human resources?
The practical difficulties.
Africans,
yeah.
They rather agree that they do English and do another subject, or even increase period in math, so that they leave that this other African. Because really, it doesn't help at all. And who's Afro Forum in terms of if they care about children's interests and languages?
Yeah. All right, John, I hear you. Let's leave it there for this morning. Thank you there. That's John in Davidton talking about the realities where the rubber hits the road in as far as some of these decisions and policies are concerned at schooling level. John in Hartbeespoort, you want to talk to me about spaza shops. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Tulis. Tulis, thanks for taking my call. This matter has been on my heart for a while.
Sure.
You know, we talk a lot about this, but out there are mothers and fathers who have lost their children. You just cannot understand the pain that they're going through. And we sit now listening to a pile of claptrap from our government, Too little, too late. The old story. This is where we sit all the time with these things. Let's go back to the AIDS epidemic. How many children did we lose before we got a little bit wiser? What happens in our initiations? Oh, we'll remember that next year again. And then what about Isidelini? What about that? Our government is just playing games here. Mr. Lesotho, please get off your speed train, get your feet down in those dusty streets and help our people. I'm reminded of a song which came up a little while ago. Perhaps we could put one together like this. They're killing our children. They're killing our young men. They're killing our old people. And maybe we can get a song going, something like that. Please, let's stop the trap there.
Yeah.
And please, your government are largely to blame for the problems that we have in this country by your failure to do your jobs. Thank you. Sorry about that.
No, not a problem. Thank you for that. That's John. And I have nothing to add to that, John, because I would be detracting from your heartfelt message. Let's leave it there. Let me take one or two of the voice notes that have also come through. This one has to do with the issue of poisoning of food.
Good morning, Thulasizwe and the SFM listeners. If we say the Alpirima was the one who killed those children in Soweto, which means those children were poisoned by someone in the community, because as blacks, we know that Alpirima is used as poison to kill someone. Brian Mabai from Protea Glen. Thanks for the great show.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. And I wonder, though, if it doesn't have another use other than deliberately poisoning someone for the purpose of killing them. My understanding is that it's also used as a pesticide of sort, quote unquote, a street pesticide, at least according to the expert that we spoke to a bit earlier on. But you're absolutely right. That's the realm in which we are now, investigating those possibilities.
Good morning, Thulasizwe. This is Uzola from Duduza. Let me tell you, these regulations for for spaza shops and township business, they will not work. These local government people are so corrupt. They will authorize these people to open businesses. They will just take payments from these people, and they'll be like authorized to to open businesses again. It won't work. Here in Duduza, there was a shop that was closed apparently by a certain group, and the others went after an influence from another business who is a South African, and the other group went there and opened it. So it's like others taking money from the other one and others taking other more to implement a certain action.
Sure. All right, thank you for that. On that sobering note, let's end it there. And that's how we come to the end of today's edition of the Morning Brief. The Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana is coming up next here on SAFM after the news. Essential cover from Outsurance pays out claims in cash, allowing you to choose your own panel beater. SMS CAR to 43187 now.
In our top stories, City of Joburg to meet Electricity Minister and Eskom over debt issues, and Portfolio Committee Chairperson unhappy with the withdrawal of the SABC bill. Good morning. The City of Johannesburg says it will meet with the Electricity Minister, Kgosientsho Ramokgopa, and Eskom today to try to resolve the multi-billion rand debt issue. Eskom has threatened to interrupt electricity supply to the metro. The power utility says the City of Johannesburg owes it 6.3 billion rand. Meanwhile, the Johannesburg Chamber of Commerce and Industry CEO Bernard Dedzelia says businesses in the city are at risk of disruptions to their operations, which could lead to huge losses.
The impact of load shedding would really have the effect on the medium size and especially the small SMEs, because they don't have the resources to invest in alternative energy solutions like generators or solar. So that would force them to close their businesses and also to create unemployment as well.
Chairperson of Parliament's Communications and Digital Technology Committee, Kusela Sangoni, has expressed a grave concern following reports that the SABC bill has been withdrawn by the Communications Minister, Solly Malatsi. The aim of the bill is to reconsider the financing model of the public broadcaster, as its unfunded public mandate has become near impossible to carry out. The bill has been some 16 years in the making. In a statement, Sangoni says the Portfolio Committee was not consulted in this regard. Celine Merrington reports.
Sangoni says while she appreciates that the minister has the rescinding authority, the action to withdraw the bill is inconceived. Cited in media reports, Malatsi is quoted as saying the bill is totally flawed, it does not address the funding model of the public broadcaster, and assigns too much power to the minister in appointing board members. But Sangoni says this is trigger-happy action which serves no purpose but to frustrate and disrupt processes already underway, and that this could be the death knell for the financially hamstrung public broadcaster. In the previous parliament, the process to enact the bill reached the stage of public consultations. Sangoni says none of the issues raised by civil society and the DA are insurmountable.
The Free State Education Department says it will put in place measures this week to regulate food vendors at schools around the province. This follows food poisoning incidents that affected more than 100 learners across the province between Wednesday and Friday. The department spokesperson Howard Ndaba says schools must incorporate food safety in the curriculum.
We have suspended vendor activities in and around school premises to allow conclusion of investigation and coordination of health and safety compliance. School-owned tuck shops and vendors who operate under strict supervision as approved by SGP are exempted from this suspension.
The KwaZulu-Natal Road Traffic Inspectorate says all roads are clear on the N3 corridor in the province following threats by members of the All Truck Drivers Forum and Allied South Africa, who are expected to begin a nationwide strike this week. The organization represents the interests of truck drivers. Drivers have for years raised concerns over the hiring of foreign nationals in the freight and logistics industry. They are also unhappy around some employers who are not adhering to the minimum wage policy. The KwaZulu-Natal Road Traffic Chief Inspectorate spokesperson Colin Govender says trucks started blockading the N3 at Harry Smith in the Free State, but the road has since been cleared. Forestry, Fisheries and the Environment Minister, Dr. Dion George, is leading the country's delegation in a climate change conference, COP29, in Baku. The conference brings together global leaders to raise awareness and accelerate climate action. The department spokesperson Peter Mbalengwa says George and his Norwegian counterpart Andreas Bejeland Eriksson will co-chair some of the panel discussions. The conference takes place from today to the 22nd of November. And finally, the U.S. President-elect Donald Trump's campaigning team says it will not comment on reports that he spoke by phone to Russia's President Vladimir Putin 2 days after decisively winning the U.S. election. The report came out in the Washington Post newspaper. The BBC's David Willis has the details.
The president-elect reportedly advised the Russian president not to escalate the conflict in Ukraine and reminded him, according to the Washington Post, of Washington's sizable military presence in Europe. And the Post reported that Donald Trump expressed interest in follow-up conversations to resolve the war in Ukraine soon. Now, Mr. Trump's press spokesman, in a statement, he said simply that the campaign does not comment on private calls with other world leaders.
Recapping the top story, the city of Johannesburg says it will meet with the electricity minister, Hossein Suramakgopa, and Eskom today to try to resolve the multi-billion rand debt issue. Eskom has threatened to interrupt electricity supply to the metro. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
And that's the news for this hour. Theft, accident and 1 million rand liability cover, all covered by Archer's Essential. Get a quote today. SMS card to 43187.
Awesome Friday! VS Gaming Weekly is back on your screen, bigger and better with more exhilaration.
Draw near as we shine a spotlight on the world of gaming to bring you everything from gaming news, the latest tech, tournaments, players' profiles, and celebrity interviews. Get the latest in gaming news and trends, as well as tips and tricks from some of South Africa's favorite pro gamers. Witness Telkom VS Gaming Weekly every Friday at 2 p.m. on SABC1, with repeats every Sunday at 11:30 a.m. on SABC2. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
43-year-old Jan loves Outsurance Essential because it's low-cost insurance made for older cars. For his 2005 Corsa 1.6 Sport, he pays 350 Rand a month. With Outsurance Essential, accident claims are paid in cash, so you can choose the panel beater you want to use. Top this up with the motor warranty, which covers you for mechanical or electrical breakdowns. Get saving with Outsurance Essential for unfinanced cars older than 5 years and valued at less than 130,000 Rand. SMS car to 43187. That's car to 43187 today. Licensed insurer and FSP, T's, C's, and information online.
The Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
The countries that are leading in manufacturing of goods that we use every day, of technology that we use every day, are not Germany, Britain, France, and America. It's China, India, Turkey, South Korea, and etc. And if you ask us where we are sending our students, spending lots of money for fellowship and scholarships, we are still sending them to the past. That's why they come back with good French, good English, and sometimes even good Spanish. And they cannot produce anything. Electrical engineer can't fix light bulb. As a former UN employee, I keep telling people, I was part of the lying industry that kept telling people, by 2050, 75% of Africans will be living in urban areas. And I keep saying the only reason why that will become true is because we are not investing in the rural sector. The majority of conflicts generated by extractive industries or generated by land grabbing or generated by the battle over water are not urban conflicts. Those battles are happening in the rural areas. Now I understand why I was part of those miseducated elites who kept on saying by 2050, 75% of Africans will be living in urban areas. I was preparing our people to leave the land, to leave the rivers, to leave the water, to leave the organic food, to come into town so that those who were coming with money to take it to invest for their own countries could come. And because they are not that sophisticated in most of our countries, it's easier for big industries and big people who are coming to grab land, grab wildlife and stuff to corrupt them. That is where we fight from a base, and our base is we cannot be handing over our natural resources, our land, our water, and etc., and only training our young people to become good French and English speakers.
Brian Kagoro, a Zimbabwean human rights activist, starting the show off, opening us up this morning on The Talking Point. Welcome to the show. A pleasure to be with you as we start a brand new week. I'm Cathy Mohlahlana, leading the conversations that move us. And of course, I'll be with you until midday, and hopefully you'll come on board to be part of the conversation. Trust you had a good weekend, right? Mild? Yesterday was just beautiful. You didn't watch the Springboks. You didn't see the game. It was so nice. They did so well. What a bunch of winners. So certainly set it up to be a good week. Last week, I must say, there was something I meant to do on Friday, but I got on air and I got preoccupied. So today I'm not going to forget. I've put it top of my list, which is really to acknowledge and celebrate our drama department, because last week at the South African Literary Awards, the book reading received an award, the Literary Journalism Award for 2024, and it was for the SABC in particular for the book reading program, and they were acknowledged for the role that this program plays. So the book reading airs every day on the show. At around quarter to 12, we end off the show with the book reading. So let's give the book reading and everybody behind the scenes that works to make that product the success it is. And this is where I hope I'm not going to be let down by the technical team, because I can see them searching, looking frantically, not sure whether they're going. Oh no, there's no round of applause. My heart is broken. My heart is absolutely broken. All right, so I might not have the applause to go with it, but a very big congratulations to the team. And I just wanted to acknowledge this award, the Essay Literary Award Certificate for the Literary Journalism Award. So that's for the book reading, and like I said, you can tune in Monday to Thursdays at quarter to 12. That's when the book reading is. Okay, so coming up on the show today, we'll kick it off with the open line as we always do. You get to lead the conversation. Looking forward to hearing from you. It looks like then the momentum out of the Gauteng Education Department around its decision to stop the sale of food on school premises until further notice. It looks like that is going ahead. And of course, it's going to be one of those things that raises questions, right? Because on the one hand, there's the need to protect learners in school due to the sale of counterfeit goods, but or contaminated goods. But as far as, we can tell from the examples that have been given so far, it's not necessarily the food in the schools that has been the problem. It is the food that is outside of the schools. So what happens then with the spaza shops that are operating as normal? Does this really solve the problem that has been identified here? And one also just has to think about the livelihoods that are being affected, because often these tuck shops are run by, members maybe of school governing bodies or other entities. But the point is that there are families that are deriving livelihoods from these businesses. So what then becomes the implication of a decision like this? Because schools are very strict with what they let onto school premises. And more often than not, it's a problem that is taking place outside of the schooling environment that is brought in. But now, when you shut down all the tuck shops, what does it actually mean? What are the implications of that more broadly? And is it the right decision to make in response to the problem that is being faced here? But what I really wanted to bring on the table for discussion this morning was a part of a headline that I saw coming out of the Business Day. And the headline reads, "The Treasury says the state is not looking at basic income grant." And we know that the basic income grant has been a subject of many conversations over the last couple of years, particularly since COVID-19. You had a lot of social partners that came together and lobbied, including the Department of Social Development, by the way, for why there was a need for government to have some kind of social protection net that covers the majority of South Africans. Under COVID-19, it became dire enough for government to introduce the Social Relief of Distress grant. That's the grant that is now 370 Rand. And when you look at the figures, so in this country, just in the last 2 months, 17 million people, 17.1 million people applied for the Social Relief of Distress grant. So that's 17.1 million people that believe that they qualify to earn this grant, 370 Rand. Of course, of that number, we know that just around half of them actually received it. So you have an increasing number of people that need social security protection, but the resources allocated to it has stayed the same, if not marginally decreasing if you take into account inflation, etc. The real income ultimately decreasing there. But my question is around how then do we plan on dealing with poverty in this country? And what is the cost that we associate with poverty as a society? What price are we paying for poverty? What price are we paying for the high unemployment rate and the high inequality levels? We have got millions of people in this country that are unemployed, and they have no prospects of employment, right? We've got millions of people not in education, not in employment, not in training, that neat figure. And so what must happen with these people? I know the ANC before the elections had said that it wants to have the basic income grant implemented within the next 2 years. The DA broadly supports the idea, but that's if, government has the money to back it up. But as things stand right now, we don't know what the future of the grant, the social relief of distress grant is. And now the confirmation coming out of Treasury that there are no conversations in government right now about implementing a basic income grant. What then are we saying must happen to the millions of people in this country that have absolutely nothing? And by the way, that's not an exaggeration. They have nothing. So what must happen with those people? And what is the price that we as a country are ultimately going to pay for that? I'd love to have your views on that particular conversation. Coming up in the second hour of the show, we're going to reflect on the post-election violence in Mozambique. We'll bring you some of the voices from the country as well. And in the final hour, we'll stay with this conversation around illicit goods. The Consumer Goods Council is also entering the fray. They're launching multiple campaigns to try and deal with this issue. I'll take your calls. 086 000 2032 is the number to dial. On the WhatsApp voice note line, 0614 104 107.
What a day. Time for that face mask. Leave the face mask on for 2 minutes. 2 minutes? That's not even enough time for it to work. I can't even send an email in 2 minutes or make a cup of coffee.
With Santam, 2 minutes is enough to insure your car online. When you're fully protected with the expert insurer, you're free to live in the moment, not in the worry. Santam. This is freedom. Santam is an authorized FSP, a licensed non-life insurer and controlling company for its group companies.
South Africa and India will produce hot performances as they both want to triumph during their third T20 contest. The visitors want victory to ensure a joyful tour, but hosts Mzansi refuse to fold their arms. What a summer without cricket! Catch the heated third T20 international action between South Africa and India on Wednesday, 13 November at 4:30 p.m. live on SABC3 and 4 p.m. on Radio 2000. With reports on various SABC radio stations. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Across South Africa, online and on radio. SAFM, let's talk.
Morning, Cathy. Just established in Bloemfontein. Congratulations to the book reading team. No, it's one of the best programs that SABC or SAFM has ever done. I've developed a love for reading. I even bought the book by Harris Tutamisis, The Man That Killed Apartheid. No, I fell in love with that book the moment that I listened to the book readings. It's one of my favorite books. And thanks again for the reading book team.
Good morning, Cathy, and good morning to the listeners. Your opener
Very, very informative, straightforward, realistic. I appreciate it. Where I heard him saying that the people are moving from the rural to the urban by 2015 simply because investment is in the urban. I think the politicians should be listening. The strategists, the clever people, all those people should be listening that already urban is clustered. So maybe indeed we should start focus investing on the rural so that that clustered urban can also move back to the rural. That's how I pick up. Thank you very much.
All right, let me go to Crispin. You're in Durban. Good morning, Crispin.
Good morning, Cathy. Just to say, on the issue of these sponsorships, I think we heard a lot of nonsense. I mean, a lot of it was around xenophobia. And somehow there was this idea of these devious, evil foreigners poisoning innocent South African children. Now we're getting closer to the truth. And the issue is our absolutely flagrant, uncontrolled use of poisons in the country that nobody gives attention to. That we have the law, but the law is not well regulated. Potentially there's corruption that enables people to bypass the law. We use, those of us working in the area of violence and peace use the term structural violence for violence that can be deadly. That is not a direct result of an action of stabbing, killing, murdering, and so on. But it has very deadly consequences, as was apartheid. Apartheid wasn't only direct violence, it was the way the whole system operated was to have terribly negative impacts on the lives of black people. The same thing is happening here. We've got ignorance around the use of poisons. People are poorly educated. We can't easily blame sparkler shop owners who don't know clearly what the law is and don't understand the nature of poisons. And if you look at, say, for example, advertising, the Department of Agriculture freely advocates using various poisons in agriculture as best practice, without criticism, without warning people of the consequences of this. Look at the adverts for things like Doom. Do they ever stress the damage to humans, potentially, of using these? We know, in fact, that they do huge damage to the rest of the natural environment. Why would it not also be to the human environment? So I think these are the kind of issues that lie behind what we are witnessing now, which is extremely dangerous and will continue until these conditions change.
Crispin, do you truly believe that people don't know the consequences of using some of these products? I think they do.
Well, some people do, and others, I think, don't. I mean, this really, I don't think people using, spraying around the house for cockroaches or whatever, really think about how poisonous this is. That is the mindset that we are dealing with here on a grand scale. So I'm not sure that everyone does. Some people do know, and it's absolutely cynical that they know they are endangering people in this way. But this is the nature of our violence in South Africa. It's not only around this direct violence, it's the way that so many people collude with really dangerous practices.
Okay. Crispin, out in Durban, thanks for that view. Look, here's a point around the fact that the Department of Agriculture, has said that the part of the reason why some of these substances are not banned is because they're used for agricultural purposes. But as long as, that is taking place, so it's good for pest control with our food, but it's not good for it to be used in the homes. And it is a bit of a conflicting message there. Ndlovu, you're in the Eastern Cape. Good morning.
Yes, good morning. Good morning, Cathy.
Yes, good morning.
Yes, Cathy. I have something that has left me disgusted. The behavior by SADU members in Durban, which was in Kababa. which was against the basic Minister of Education. You know, Cathy, these people sometimes they bark at the wrong tree. I understand that, Cathy, in this country, you have a right to protest, you have a right to raise issues, but SADTU is a problem now for a very long time. Cathy, there was these annual national assessments that were proposed by the department and yet implemented by the department to improve literacy and numeracy skills amongst our learners, grade 3 and grade 7. Now, that was opposed by SADTU and it was ultimately stopped. What are we left with? We're left with kids who can't read, as per that report. Grade 4 learners who can't read for meaning and understanding. Okay? SADTU opposed a move that would have improved that. Now we're left with those kids who can't read, and it's a problem. But these people are busy protesting against a minister because she comes from the Democratic Alliance. What is that? Secondly, Cathy, their own members.
Ndlovu, do you think that protest was fueled solely by the fact that she's from the Democratic Alliance, or that it has to do?
Why didn't they do this thing when other ministers were on stage? Why?
So just yes? Hang on. With such and I'm just wondering to what extent was as a result of that. But then they were also complaining about salaries. Yes.
Did you miss perhaps what one of the SADTU leaders in KZN said before the elections? That imagine having a Democratic Alliance minister of basic education. Did you miss that?
Yeah, look, Ndlovu, it will be very unfortunate if the only reason for the protest is because she is a minister from the Democratic Alliance.
Okay, secondly, Cathy, another point, Cathy. The very same SADTU leaders. Now, if you care to know, Cathy, out of every 10 educators in this country who are facing disciplinary action, I'm talking about these people who rape our kids in schools, teachers. I'm talking about principals who misuse finances, school finances. I'm telling you, out of every 10 of those, and what are they saying about those people? Instead of staging some protest against the minister, what are they saying about their members who do very wrong things against our kids, by the way, against the education system, breaking all sorts of laws? But anyway, Cathy, the bigger problem is this one. If we still have people who are managing our system, I'm talking about here district directors in the education sector who are from SADTU and pushed up by SADTU, we're still going to have problems because those people, they're not going to do anything about the behavior that we see every day amongst SADTU members. Teachers who come to school drunk, who abuse learners, who do all sorts of things. Okay. And then at the end of the day, they are protected by the very same system that is supposed to punish them and discipline them.
Okay. All right, Ndlovu out in the Eastern Cape. Let's take the latest news update. I'm back with more of your calls.
In the headlines, 2 children aged 10 and 11 years old have drowned in a trench in Tabong Velkom in the Free State province. The Department of Water and Sanitation says a group of children, among them the deceased, were attempting to swim inside a trench that was full of water as a result of rainfall from the weekend. The city of Johannesburg says it will meet with the Electricity Minister, Hossein Ramogopa, and Eskom today to try to resolve the multi-billion rand debt issue. Eskom has threatened to interrupt electricity supply to the metro. And the Gauteng government says it will overhaul bylaws for municipalities in the province Governance in a bid to regulate the operation of tuck shops in townships. I'll have details on these and other stories at 10.
South Africa and India will produce hot performances as they both want to triumph during their third T20 contest. The visitors want victory to ensure a joyful tour, but hosts Mzansi refuse to fold their arms. What a summer without cricket! Catch the heated third T20 international action between South Africa and India on Wednesday, 13 November at 4:30 p.m. live on SABC3 and 4 p.m. on Radio 2000. With reports on various SABC radio stations. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
This summer, we have extra large offers on Ford Ranger XL, XLT and Wildtrak from only $481,900 for a Ranger XL single cab 4x2. It's the extra large Ranger offer from only $481,900. Visit your nearest participating Ford dealer. Optional service plan included. While stocks last. T&Cs apply.
Real savings, real benefits. Here's what real clients say about OUTsurance.
My name is Adam. I'm 71 years of age and I live in Douglasdale. I'm paying R554 a month for my 2022 Nissan Magnite.
Want a car insurance premium that'll blow your mind? SMS out to 30754 now for a quick quote. That's out to 30754. It's quick, it's easy, and it could save you hundreds of rands every month. OUTsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online. If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
My name's Michael Fontaine. I'm 16. I have difficulty paying attention in class, so I fell behind. That's why my parents moved me to UCT Online High School. I can't thank them enough. Their flexible learning means I can take classes when it suits me, so I get ahead and stay ahead. Visit uctonlinehighschool.com to learn more. Applications close 29 November 2024.
Our role must be to seek to build a better world.
SAFM invites you to our annual public lecture, delivered by former Minister Dr. Naledi Pandor. The theme for the lecture is 30 Years of South African Freedom. Reimagining South Africa's democracy, achievements, challenges, and the road ahead in protecting our democratic gains. The lecture will take place on the 21st of November 2024 at the Birchwood Hotel and Conference Center. Secure your seat by emailing us at info@safm.co.za.
Today, I'm part of seeking to build a better South Africa.
SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. Conversations that you connect with and react to. SAFM.
All right, we continue with the open line, taking your calls on 086 000 2032 on the WhatsApp voice note line. I'll take those text messages and voice notes on 0614 104 107. Maybe going back to Ndlovu's point, who was calling to complain about the SATU protest yesterday. Ndlovu, those protesters seem to have been raising the issue of monies. This is financial allocations that were supposed to be paid to some schools in KZN. Those monies have not yet been paid, and they were supposed to have been all paid out in May, but now they've broken up the payment tranches into 8, and so it's delaying the receipt of those monies. So it also adds a bit of context. And I don't want to take away your point that there could well also be political motivations behind it. This is, after all, SATU that we are talking about. But it wouldn't be the only reason why they protested last week. Now you're in Mohlahlana. Good morning.
Good morning, ma'am.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. The issue that you just raised earlier on about the social development. Well, the problem is with the social development is that you would find that they won't be able to assist the masses or the needy or people that need state welfare. Is because they themselves, the department and the Department of Women and Youth with persons living with disabilities, executives are very incompetent. The reason why I'm saying this is that you would find that those people that earn the 370 that you mentioned, the 17 million, and half are getting them, you would find that the other half don't qualify for those grants. It's same with like myself. I'm legally blind. You would find that I have personal experience whereby you would find that I would stand in the line for a medical assessment, and then a person who does not seem like does not have a disability goes with a private letter from a private institution, and then goes to the medical assessment, and then gets approved for the grant. And then you find that people that actually deserve the grant get declined for the grant. So the social development, it took children whom were studying at a university to say that there's fraud here with the 350 grant. While the social development and SASO administrating those grants, well, they had the resources to find out who deserves and who does not deserve the grant.
And now, in your experience, what makes it difficult for somebody like you to access grants if you've had that difficulty at all?
Well, just for example, just now, I was born partially blind, so I've been getting the grants all my life. So I was going for a review every 5 years. So what happened is that in April this year, I was declined my grant because the doctor told me that I did not look poor enough. I don't know how much a person look when you have a disability.
The doctor said that to you.
Yeah, the doctor said that to me, that I did not look poor enough to receive the grant.
Was this a private doctor that said this
No,
to you?
it was the doctor that was doing the medical assessment at SASA. So I then did an appeal, and then that appeal took too long. I waited about 5 months, 6 months, just to get some sort of a decision. Then I called to this very same radio station. I called to this very same radio station. Your producers tried to help me and tried to intervene. Then the very same people told your producers that my appeal has not been seen. All of a sudden, last week, I get visited by because of the pressure from your producers. I get visited by a social SASA representative at my home. I'm given an appeal letter because they knew that they needed to reimburse me for the 6 months that I did not receive the grant. I get an appeal letter of whereby they decline me with my appeal. But then on that appeal, they say that I am legally blind. I have bilateral vision. But then they decline me. And then they say there's no proof. So how did they know that I have bilateral vision with no proof? First of all. Secondly, they told me that I needed to go back to a doctor. Within 2 days, I was with the doctor, and then I was just received a temporary grant, even though I've been seen by 3 doctors already that confirmed the very same thing. So they gave me the temporary grant so that they can just shut me up, so that I cannot complain ever going forward. Because they knew, first of all, that one, they took long with the appeal. Second, they didn't sit down with the tribunal. And third, they needed just so that I cannot complain anymore. So these are the type of things that's happening at the social development department.
Now, what puzzles me is the fact that you say you've been on this grant for most of your life now. So
Yes,
is there a reason to believe that your condition is going to improve? I'm just curious to know why the social development department will now question the status around your condition when it actually has no reason to do so.
That was my point exactly, because even at the I've studied the letter of the tribunal. They even admit that I have that type of disability, but then they say there's no proof. So how could they determine, the tribunal itself, that I have a specific condition that I said, whereby they did not have proof? They're contradicting their own selves.
Yeah,
so if they can contradict their own selves, what happens with other grants?
Oh, no, I'm so sorry about your experience here. I'm glad to hear that the producers have been helping you out, trying to get this matter resolved. But how does it all make you feel?
It's sad, because whenever we go, people that deserve the grant normally don't receive it, and people that don't, like people that deserve the grant don't receive it, and people don't deserve the grant receive it. People can just buy a letter at a doctor and then receive the grant, and then they get the grant for the rest of their lives. Whereby I have to now prove, a person who was born with a disability, prove year in, year out that I have this disability, even though I've been seen by 3 different doctors who say the same thing this year alone.
Yeah,
and my doctors are even angry because of they now are asking themselves what is happening with the social development department.
It really is inexplicable now. And again, thank you for calling in and for sharing that experience that you've had. Yeah, it just doesn't make sense. Why? The situation that somebody like Neo finds himself in is difficult enough already. Now to have to go to doctors and try and, fulfill all of this criteria with very little support, but to then not be trusted by the system, even though they have your previous details, they know. That's what I don't understand. Surely that history must matter. It must make a difference. Pule, you're in Mohlahlana as well. Good morning.
Yes, Cathy, how are you?
Good.
Good. Look, Cathy, the issue of the food at school, the SGB must take responsibility. Where I serve at the SGB, as a treasurer, we have a tuck shop. We don't allow parents to come and sell school food outside to the school, even inside the school yard. We have a tuck shop that we monitor. They don't recycle food. If they have a bunny shower, if they have amagwenya for today, and the kids don't buy those things and finish them today, they don't recycle them for tomorrow, avoiding food poisoning. We are very strict. Remember, when the kids enter the school yard, the management of the school, which is SMT, the school governing body, they take over from a parent. That child becomes our child. There's what we call pro bono parenting. It becomes our child. So we are responsible for everything that he eats, everything that he drinks, even the playground. We are responsible for that. So we have a tuck shop at school that we have associated to a parent, and that parent has a child at school. So we are in charge and full control. And we have a hospital for that matter, where we are giving our kids food. There have been never a single case where a child complained about stomach bug, about vomiting, about all these things that we hear on the media. Because they allow people to come from the township to come and sell, or anywhere, not only the township, to come and sell food that they have recycled last night for today. And the kids end up consuming that food. So we don't allow anybody. They buy from the tuck shop, or they bring their own, what you call the sculpting from home. Then they eat that.
Look, Pule, that's the approach that I know many schools in the township to take as well. Simply because of the culpability that schools then bear once children are on the property, which is why I was asking the question around, is the approach of the department in Gauteng, is it really the right approach? Because often the food that is on the school premises, where you have the SGB and all of this monitoring, that's not often the problem. It's the food that's outside. So these kids could well be going to school and not buying from the tuck shop at school. But once they leave the school premises, they're still walking past the tuck shop that is selling whatever it is that they're selling, not really regulated, or having that regulation not monitored by municipalities.
Our gates are closed. Learning and teaching start at 7:30. Then our gates are closed from 20:07. Every learner must be in the schoolyard. We don't allow the school even to cross the street because there are shops, there's a garage there where they're going to buy food and come bring those food and share with other learners. We don't allow that to happen in our school. We close it. There's Mothers that are selling outside of the school, we have asked them to leave. Every year we advertise the tuck shop. Those that have learners at school, they come and apply. Then we interview them and we even check the food that learners are eating are the food that even teachers are eating. They go to the tuck shop and buy from the same tuck shop where the learners are eating. We have a hostel. We have parents that are staying in the hostel. Teachers and parents that are staying in the hostel. The same food, even the principal stays in the hostel. The same food that our kids are consuming are the same food that the principal is consuming.
Okay, all right. Bule out in Mohlahlana. Yeah, just an example of how else it is done in different parts of the country. Certainly, what Bule is describing is a model that I'm familiar with. Mark, you're in Newlands. Good morning.
Hi, good morning, Cathy. And first of all, let me agree with you. Well done, Bokker. Jeepers, what a fantastic game that was. I mean, really, wow, they made me cry. That was absolutely awesome. Cathy, I want to just touch on something that seems to become a bit of a hot potato. And it was raised on KG when she did your show last week. And it was in relation to a guy called Thulasizwe, a Zambian activist. And he made the most interesting comment. A lot of the callers commented on it. And he said the one thing that the politicians love to do in countries is keep the people poor, and that way they are dependent on them. And you opened the show this morning talking about massive unemployment in our country. And here's my hot potato, is that we import baskets into this country at 25 Rand a basket from China. Everything comes from China. You even import toothpicks, can you believe it? Now, I can have baskets now, not me personally, but I mean I can and I try to make baskets for 20 Rand. I can sell them for... I can make them for 20 Rand and I can sell them for 24 Rand. I can outsell the Chinese to Pick and Pay and Macro and all these stores. And that means that I can pay one person 1,600 Rand a month. He's currently sitting in a village all by himself or with 12 or 15 of his friends and family, earning 380 grant or whatever that horrible, pathetic grant is. He would be 1,220 Rand odd better off, just rounding off the numbers. Now, when I mentioned this to Vavi on the show, he said to me that I'm trying to introduce slavery and we're not going back there. And I want to make the point to Vavi, and my challenge to Vavi is this. If people can get 1,600 Rand a month when they are destitute, they live in abject poverty, surely they should be allowed to do that. Who is the government to say they cannot work because the minimum wage that I must pay is 27 Rand or whatever it is? Now, that's not to say, Cathy, I wouldn't want to pay them, nor would I, and I will pay them more than the minimum wage in the end, but we need to get industry going. And my question I would put to Vavi, and the challenge I'll put to him, and he won't come on your show, by the way. All these union guys, I have to say, are just running scared. And the question I would put to him is this: what right does he, or the ANC, have to force people to starve to death or live off 380 a month when they could get an opportunity to earn 1,600 Rand? And let me just say in conclusion, Cathy, I understand Zelensky. He looks after the employed. He does not give a damn about the unemployed. But I happen to give a damn about the unemployed. Yes, Cathy.
Is the difficulty, especially where we talk minimum wage, is the difficulty not that already you have so many people that fall under that bracket of not receiving the minimum wage, that are already being exploited? And one of the interventions then is that, how do you begin to change that? Because even when you are creating employment opportunities, it can't be that they all fall into the same spectrum and there is no level of protection around what the income earning opportunities could be.
Cathy, well, first of all, let me just say that I hear what you're saying. But let's not forget our ANC government pays 14 Rand an hour. They're allowed to pay under the minimum wage of the EWP. But, of course, a guy who wants to actually create work and create jobs like me is not allowed to do that. And no, the Chinese did not get to where they are as the almost second most powerful country in the world by paying people a minimum wage. They got there by hard work, some guys living on $2 a day because that's all they had. And now have built up their industries where they're paying these guys $15, $20 a day, whatever it is. And we've got to start somewhere, Cathy. And I just want to know, if somebody comes along to me and I've got nothing, I don't care what the government legislates or does. And the guy says to me, I will pay you 1,600 rand a month if you can make 10 baskets for me a day, just for starters. And I will pay you that a month.
Sure.
I don't know, you know,
all right.
would
Yeah,
you
Mike,
and who
many
is the
people would
government
take
to
that.
tell them? Well, of course, because you've got to start somewhere, Cathy.
Okay.
We can't start with a Rolls Royce. We've first got to start with a wagon, get the wagon going.
Not afford a lawyer? Think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply. The Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
We continue the conversation on the Talking Point. I'm taking your calls on 086 000 2032 is the open line, 086 000 2032. On the WhatsApp voice note line, 0614 104 107. Yeah, sorry you got cut off there, Mike, but you know, you're right. Many people, given the desperation that they're in, would take the 1,600 over nothing. But is it fathomable for a government to then say, it's okay, pay people 1,600 rand? There must be a standard. And that's the point of legislation such as minimum wage, is that there's a standard that is upheld, that everybody should be working towards, that everybody should be, should be mindful of, and we should be clear about what the standard we want to set for our country is. We know that there are lots of domestic workers that don't earn minimum wage, lots of farm workers that don't earn minimum wage, but we can't say that, so we get rid of minimum wage and say, well, it's not a requirement. Then that means that those people's conditions are never going to change. Dintwe, you're in Tabanchu. Good morning.
Good morning, Cathy. How are you?
Good.
Yeah, no, I want to speak about these powder shops and the backyard dwellers. You know, if I can just go back in 1996, for those of us who attended the caucus of the ANC in Parliament, the late state president Nelson Mandela said, ANC is good in policies, but very poor in implementation. Now, the laws are there to govern all these things that are happening, but the implementation and the policing of the laws is zero. And we've got people, we've got politicians locally, we've got the ward committees, we've got ward councillors, we've got PR councillors, everyone that you can, we've got officials. Now, these powder shop mushroomed under our nose and eyes, that no building can be erected in a town or a township without that being approved by the building inspectors to inspect that the building is according to plan. But these powder shops are being built left, right, and center, no plan, no nothing. But now today we are having a problem. It's now that we are reacting. And again, we are going to the spaza shop and looking at these things that the food have expired. We don't go to factories where these things foodstuffs are manufactured. Yeah, social media is going around showing people that these people are manufacturing foodstuffs for themselves. But I'm sure nobody in government is following on that. Because also this is affecting the factories in South Africa that I have to create jobs for our people. So we are good in policies, we are very poor in implementation. So they blame all these things that are happening. The blame should go to the government.
Yeah.
And lastly, you know, when Jacob Zuma created the Department of Monitoring and Evaluation, I thought that we are going to have a perfect government where the ministry will be monitoring other ministries. But that department just fall flat. It never did anything to monitor whether these other ministers are doing their job.
Did you hear the interview with the deputy minister that we had, didn't we, in the last week?
No, I didn't.
All right, try and find the podcast of it. I think we did that interview last week, and it really puts into context what you're saying, the disappointment around the work of that ministry. Magdalene, good morning.
Good morning, Cathy. Cathy, your introduction was so on the spot. Your questions really just urged me to say something. I didn't want to say something today, actually. But for the fact of your questions, number one, I didn't vote for socialism. I voted for equity. Equity in which point? That me as a historically disadvantaged person, the South African citizen, need to be put to the certain edge of the white counterpart people. The point is, if the government which initiated democracy in South Africa was on the point of coming with socialism, then I couldn't vote from the word-go, because it was going to fail. For the worst part, for the fact that they never controlled the borders. The thing now, what is happening is that they allowed other people from the other countries to come and overpower us worse better than the white people. The thing is, with the point of the sponsorship, easy as ABC. They were supposed to sit down last week, like they said, those shops must be closed. They were supposed to sit down as an emergency to say, can we put the South Africans first? Because that's how the GNU came up. So Stella is removing the responsibility from herself to the local government. Local government doesn't know how to implement the bylaws. I'm going to say to Mtateli Sufi, he must listen to me today now. Sponsorships of the foreign nationals need not to be opened. The people who are supposed to be giving priority right now are the South Africans being funded if ever they don't have money. They need to be called in meetings to say, people, whoever is interested to open a sponsorship, because we've been talking about township economic development or economic establishment. So this is the right time to start that thing. Let us not look back to the foreign nationals anymore, because we allowed them to come and take the resources and overpower us with our own economy in South Africa. So we need GNU to start now, operate. No more listen to one person. No more listen to one party. GNU, start and do your job.
Okay, Magdalene out in Mangaung. Yeah, look, I think the issue of the spaza shops is it can so easily become about immigration, non-nationals in the country and those that are running these entities. But we mustn't forget that at the heart of this problem has been the inefficiency and inability of authorities to do what they're supposed to do. And it's what is leading to it. So, yes, sometimes it's easier to scapegoat the foreign nationals, but they're at the end of it's symptomatic. It's symptomatic of what the actual problem systemically that we need to be confronting is. It's 10 o'clock.
In our top stories, 2 children drown in Free State Trench, and City of Joburg to meet Electricity Minister in Eskom over debt issues. Good morning. 2 children aged 10 and 11 years old have drowned in a trench in Tabong Valcom in the Free State. The Department of Water and Sanitation says a group of children, among them the deceased, were attempting to swim inside a trench that was full of water as a result of rainfall from the weekend. According to the Vaal Central Water Board, a subdivision in the department, the community members were alerted by one of the children about the drowning. Board spokesperson Lindwe Mguni says despite swift action, paramedics were unable to resuscitate the children.
The DWS and VCW convey deepest condolences to the families of the 2 children and promise that the matter is being investigated and will provide an update once all parties have been consulted, including the project contractor. DWS and VCW would like to appeal to members of the community to stay off areas with trenches as they may pose danger, more especially after rainfall, and further urge parents in particular to guard children and to keep them away from water bodies as they pose risks of drowning.
The City of Johannesburg says it will meet with the Electricity Minister, Kgosientsho Ramokgopa, and Eskom today to try to resolve the multi-billion rand debt issue. Eskom has threatened to interrupt electricity supply to the metro. The power utility says the City of Johannesburg owes it 6.3 billion rand. Meanwhile, the Johannesburg Chamber of Commerce and Industry CEO Bernadette Zelea says businesses in the city are at risk of disruptions to their operations, which could lead to huge losses.
The impact of load shedding would really have the effect on the medium size and especially the small SMEs, because they don't have the resources to invest in alternative energy solutions like generators or solar. So that would force them to close their businesses and also to create unemployment as well.
The City of Tshwane says water has started flowing from taps in some areas following the successful repair work by Rand Water. This follows a trip at Rand Water's Palmit Booster pump station on Wednesday that caused widespread water disruptions in large parts of the city. City of Tshwane spokesperson Lindela Mashiro says Laudium and Atteridgeville systems remain offline but are expected to come online soon.
Kamuve L reservoir is showing signs of increasing. This improvement is against a challenge of consumption, while the distribution network is not fully pressured as yet. Under the circumstances, the recovery should speed up as more air is released from the line. Meanwhile, some areas have been restored, such as Mabupane Block C, north of Pretoria, and the Reeds in Centurion.
The Gauteng government says it will overhaul bylaws for municipalities in the province in a bid to regulate the operation of tuck shops in townships. This follows a spate of foodborne illnesses that led to the hospitalization of hundreds of children and the deaths of 23 in various areas in the province from allegedly consuming snacks bought at tuck shops. Gauteng provincial spokesperson Vuyo Mahaga explains.
It will be about really not necessarily sponsor shop, actually all traders in the township. You'll find that in Ekurhuleni, they've got their own bylaws, the way they do things. In Tswana, they've got their own bylaws. In Johannesburg, they've got their own bylaws. Now, for the police enforcement, then they have to find a way to adapt to depending on the area. But if you've got a uniform bylaws, everyone understands when you trade in Gauteng, you need to get a permission from the municipality. You need to produce this type of products in this type of an area. You need to employ so many South Africans, and you've got a quota of foreign nationals that can operate in that space. And how many sponsor shops can be in one space?
And finally, the latest COP International Climate Conference is getting underway in Baku, in Azerbaijan. COP29 comes as projections suggest this year will be the hottest ever recorded. Negotiators and activists want to increase the figure richer countries provide to poorer countries to aid their climate transition from the current $100 billion a year to more than $1 trillion. The president of the Worldwide Fund for Nature International, Professor Adil Najam, says the situation needs to be addressed urgently.
10 years ago, the funding question was, how do we fund things so that this doesn't happen? Now that climate change